I think winter has become my favorite season here. That's when you get those dramatic views. Brings out all the colors and the gray pops, and I feel like it's kind of like Mecca or the center of the universe. It's not a fluffy place to come. It's not a feel-good, boost your ego. It's just like you get a beating. Yeah, if I could only climb one place for the rest of my life, it would be Yosemite.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Here we go again.
Battles no one hears about. We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Welcome to the USA Climbing National Team Trials presented by YETI. We are in Memphis, Tennessee, where the best climbers in the country have gathered to launch their 2021 campaign after over a year away from the sport they love. Welcome to High Point Climbing and Fitness here in Music City, and all of these athletes are ready to make up for lost time. We kick things off today with the semifinals of men's lead and women's bouldering, with spots on the national team there for the taking. I'm Megan Martin alongside Alex Johnson, and we're so excited to be here back in competition. And even though it's the first competition back, there is a lot on the line here this week.
Right, exactly. These athletes have been training hard after a year away, looking to secure their spot on the national team. We're not crowning a national champion at this event. This is only team selection, and for a lot of these athletes, this is the biggest event of the year.
Right now, the men are doing their preview for the semifinals route, so let's go ahead and see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Do you want to help me with this one? Yeah. Do you want to just need to push it back to the right? Okay, we going over the wires?
So excited to be back at a competition venue. The men are currently previewing their semifinals route. And yesterday, during the qualifying round, they had 2 qualifier routes. And needless to say, they were pretty technical and tricky.
Right. I think the route setters are trying to ramp our climbers up for World Cup style routes, and they're really taking to the IFSC style setting. And previewing the route today with the route setters, we definitely saw that.
And there are a few changes this year with a switch over to the IFSC rules. So one thing to note for the lead event specifically is now for tops, it's just that clip. You could technically clip off of any hold as long as you get that clip at the top, and then starting, you can start wherever you want.
Right, there's no designated start hold.
And then clips no longer have a point value and no more usable surface rule. It's just that movement. So you're going to see a plus in the results when somebody has that upward movement or movement towards a hold.
I'm a fan of that, actually. I think that usable surface was incredibly hard to judge.
I agree.
And clips don't really mean anything outside. You know, we skip them outside all the time.
Now, we can't skip the clips. We still have to clip them. It's just you're not rewarded any actual points for the clips anymore. But if you tune into other IFSC broadcasts, you've seen those rules before. It's just something that we are doing now at USA Climbing that we haven't done before. But now we'll all be doing the same rules all of the time, which I think will give our athletes a better chance of being successful and not having to worry about the rules when they switch over to an international competition. There's a shot right now of our qualified Olympian, Nathaniel Coleman, reading the route. He had a really good day yesterday in the qualifying round.
Yeah, it's super exciting to see how these climbers are approaching this event. I know that our Olympians are one of the few athletes who are doing all 3 disciplines. And they're approaching this as a training event and a practice event, and they're not peaking right now, and I think that's the difference we're going to see with other athletes who are doing single discipline. They trained to set to peak here to try to make the team, and our Olympians already have a bye to all the World Cups, and so they're on a completely different training block, and so they're not set to peak here. They're approaching this event as training and pracking.
That's a really good point, Alex. And one thing about this competition for those Olympic qualified athletes is they may be competing in all of the disciplines today, but this is going to be not in them today, but this week, and it's going to be a much more grueling competition. The combined event, actually, they won't be climbing as much as they would be, so this is the perfect way for them to prepare and do something harder so that the combined feels easier.
Exactly. And this is the first time that a lot of them have competed in over a year, and this is the only time they're going to be able to compete in this format leading into the Olympics.
Exactly. And really only a few of the competitors competed at Pan Am's, Colin Duffy being one of them and the one who got that Olympic spot after that event. So it'll be really interesting to see how everything goes.
Right. They're going to be tired come day 7.
I'm pretty sure some of them are having skin issues. Yeah. Talking to the girls yesterday, they were already talking about their skin. So that's always a tricky thing to manage.
Yesterday's bouldering round was brutal. It was great to be a spectator.
The entire time we were just like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not actually climbing.
But we totally would have flashed all the boulders.
100%. So in the lead round yesterday, we saw a couple of tops, but one of the routes actually did not have a top at all, which is kind of exactly what the setters wanted. I mean, it's always great to have one person top each route, but to still have people not top the route and get very close to topping it was pretty exciting. Sean Bailey came very close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the perfect setter breakdown, and kind of exactly what they want is like segregation by one hold.
Yes, that's definitely the ideal outcome for them.
The route setters wanted us to make sure to tell you guys that they named this route the Hamburglar Goes Walking in Memphis.
And once we start seeing some climbing, we'll let you know, if you don't already know, where the walking in Memphis part really kicks in.
Yeah. And the yellow and red holds are supposed to represent ketchup and mustard.
I always love that they have started trying to make these little names for the routes, because it keeps it exciting. Seeing one of the route setters earlier, Brad Weaver, it was the first thing he wanted to tell us was, we got a name for you.
Make sure you tell everyone on the live stream what the name of the route is. Don't forget.
So in today's semifinal event for the men, you'll see 25 men competing.
There were only 20.
We're going to go to our start list right now. I'm sure you see some familiar names on that list. We've got Colin Duffy on there, Nathaniel Coleman, Sean Bailey. Lots of athletes that you've been seeing the last few years.
Ross Fulkerson and Dylan Barks, Ben Hannon, and Nathaniel Coleman, all names that we've all recognized in the top 6 up there.
Also some athletes that are just aging into competition competing here this week, which it's kind of interesting because a lot of those athletes would have been competing last year, but since we couldn't do any competitions, it's interesting to see them here now, and this is their first one, and it is such a big competition and the first time we're doing a team trials, so it's kind of a intimidating first entree into adult competitions for some of these younger athletes. We're really excited that you are all joining us today, and we're going to get this going pretty soon here with our first climber coming out. Lucas Odie will be first today. And if you watch the combined in 2020, he competed there. So this is not his first time in an adult competition, but he is one of the younger athletes.
The men sort of had an easier day yesterday because 26 climbers.
So we're going to go to a commercial really quickly because we are having some technical difficulties on our side, but please stay with us because we're going to get that competition going soon.
I think winter has become my favorite season here. That's when you get those dramatic views, brings out all the colors and the gray pops, and it just, I feel like it's kind of like Mecca or the center of the universe. It's not a fluffy place to come. It's not a feel-good, boost your ego. It's just like you get a beating. Yeah, if I could only climb one place for the rest of my life, it would be Yosemite.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers. We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
Welcome back to our coverage of 2021 USA Climbing National Team Trials. Right now we have one of our belayers pulling the rope, getting ready to start the men's semifinals in lead with our first competitor, Lucas Odie, waiting in the wings. Getting a nice look at our lovely named Hamburglar walking in Memphis route. Pretty much a vertical angle with a little bit of a kickback at the upper part of the route where it's going to turn on a bit. As we have the camera moving towards the top, you're going to see these really small crimps at the very top to the left of that YETI sign. You can barely see them. And I don't know, Alex and I were talking about this earlier, but those are some small holds for the end of a route.
I honestly couldn't see the farthest one on the right from the ground.
She was like, wait, are there 3 yellow holds at the top?
I didn't have my glasses on.
Lucas Odie right now taking one last look before getting on this route. Very interesting start. I'm wondering if he's going to try to run and jump. Looks like he is. And he's on. We've got our first athlete, Lucas Odie, making that first clip on men's semifinal lead route. Finding a nice rhythm here early on. Remember, there are 6 minutes to complete the lead route, and actually talking to Brad Weaver earlier, he was actually saying that there's a chance that time might be a factor here, which isn't usually something we see all the time.
No, and the way that he described the route was that he wanted people on their toes, I guess, literally and metaphorically at the bottom here. It's not extremely physically demanding, but it's supposed to be very mentally taxing, and so then when you get to the upper section where it kicks back a little steeper, your brain is tired, and that's when you sort of have to like turn your muscles on, and that's a really interesting tactic for setting a route, and it would break me completely.
Yeah, it's not enough to just physically tax the athletes, but now we have to mentally tax them as well, and Lucas is getting up into that walking in Memphis section where he has to stand on the small dual text hold and release his hands, and that hold he just grabbed with his right hand is actually not as good as it looks, though he got to it pretty smoothly. But his feet are kind of in the wrong orientation right now. His left foot should be where his right foot is, so we're going to have to see if he can figure out a nice way to get through this.
They sort of took a vertical wall angle and were able to make it into a slab, which is my nemesis.
But I believe most people don't prefer slab when it comes to lead climbing specifically.
Right.
Slab bouldering, not as scary, but nice way of getting through that without having his feet crossed, actually. So he made that smooth transition. Gonna get more into the actual climbing section, less on his feet, more pulling. It's looking really good.
Yeah, and this was an awesome looking route when we sequenced. And really reminiscent of like that IFSC World Cup style.
Exactly. Gonna get up into that undercling. Moving through this volume section very nicely. 3:45 left on the clock. So, I mean, it's a lot of time already through that precarious lower section of the route.
It's pretty rare, I think, in my opinion, that we really see time come into a factor in these U.S. lead competitions, and much more common in the IFSC style. And so I think that's probably something that the route setters also wanted to start trying to make globally homogenous, is aligning even with time factor. You know, Angie Eider was timing out in World Cups in the early aughts all the time. And so making the...
And a slip there, but really nice climbing from Lucas Odie. He looked pretty good in that heel hook. I don't think he was expecting that right hand to be as kind of slimpery, the mix of crimper and sloper. It's just a little too slippery.
There's some climbing vocabulary for you.
Really nice rock over on that heel hook, but just kind of missed that thumb catch, actually.
Yeah, you can
slips
see his
out of
thumb
it.
sliding down.
So that's our current high point right now with our first climber done with his first attempt. Really nice climbing from Lucas Odie. As you can see, the athletes here are competing with masks on. I don't think that's been seen in any of the other climbing competitions internationally, but here in Memphis, we are all masked up. Everyone's been tested, so the venue is completely safe. And the climbers are honestly being such good sports keeping the masks on. I mean, they've been climbing this way in gyms, so I think they're used to it at this point, but I haven't heard one complaint.
No, not at all. And I think a lot of them over the past, 12, 13 months have figured out which masks are more conducive to climbing in. Sometimes you start breathing heavy and the fabric gets sucked into your mouth, and that's really annoying. And a lot of them actually, when they're lead climbing, when you pull up to clip rope, you bite the rope. I mean, I do. And so we've seen several different tactics for when you pull up to clip, put the rope in your mouth. So Nathaniel puts it in his neck crook, and other people have been biting it through the mask.
Up next, we have Thomas Pitzl. Taking a different approach to this start, just gonna pistol squat, actually, that first move. Nice and controlled. And again, with the IFSC rules, you can grab whatever holds you want to start. So it might look like you have to run to get on the wall, but you can actually grab
foot
or press on the feet.
Whatever you can reach. It's a really insecure first move.
It really
Megan
is.
and I were messing around with it this morning.
It's one of the most insecure I've seen in a competition, actually. Really nice movement here through this delicate section, getting up onto this hold that is kind of masquerading as a volume right now to our walking in Memphis section.
The sequence that Brad wanted to force here, I think this is it. Yep, the cross through, delicate, on those dual techs, and then you swing your right foot out to that little yellow hold.
Now he's trying to go with his left hand to that red side hole, which is, he's making it work, but a little precarious and kind of risky, but it looks like it's gonna work out for him regardless. That had to take a little bit of extra stress though.
Yeah. Made my bottom half clench a little bit. This whole bottom section of the route is my absolute nemesis. Oh, he got a plus. This is the new IFSC scoring, that when you fall, what our coaches have been telling our athletes is
fall
upward movement. Exactly. You feel like you're going to fall, just jump, reach, fake it till you make it, and then you get that plus, and that plus can come down between finals and not.
Now it's always at the judge's discretion, but watching that, I think we would say that that seems like a plus, but at the end of the day, it is always up to the judge's discretion, so we'll have to see what they decide. But good climbing there from Thomas Pitzl. really smooth and controlled through that bottom section, and it looks like maybe that move into the left hand might have been a little strenuous and kind of caught him off guard and got a little flash pump. Current score there on the right with 10 points. Up next, we have Mercati Sanders walking to the wall with his rope in the bag and the Blair following him. So athletes also were suggested to bring their own ropes to this competition due to the COVID safety protocols.
I think a lot of them did. Or at least it was either bring your own personal or one for you and your teammates if you guys are on the same team, and then you guys all share. Insecure start. Whoop.
I kind of like this start just because we're going to see so many athletes approach it differently, as we've already seen so far, and Mercati nicely into the start with a more dynamic approach.
Would you run, pistol squat, or mantle the foot?
I think I would mantle the foot just because if it wasn't a competition, I would totally run, but because it's a competition, I'd be like, I gotta go slow.
I think I would mantle the foot too because I cannot do a pistol squat. And you don't want to blow the first move. If it was a bowler, you get multiple attempts in your 4 minutes, but roots are one and done.
That is always the difficulty in the lead discipline, is knowing that you only have that one shot. And over gripping is something we see a lot, and especially this lower section, I think, gives that way to over grip, and I think we're seeing that a little bit because though you're on your feet a lot, it's really hard to trust your feet.
Right. And because it is one and done and there's so much on the line at this event and the start is so insecure, I think these climbers are going to be so nervous. You know, we're selecting our U.S. national team for the entire year for all 3 disciplines this weekend. And some that are doing a lot of them are doing bouldering and lead. And usually when we select our team, there are several months between nationals, and you have time to sort of recoup your brain if you have an event that doesn't go well.
Oh, early fall there for Mercati. Looks like he just kind of was a little too stretched out. Maybe going to that red left hand side pull was a little premature. If he would have moved his feet over first and then gone into it, I think he would have been in a better position, but an unfortunate slip there.
Yeah, trying to come into that undercling with his feet swinging, there just wasn't a chance to be able to hold that tension, and his left hand just slips right out.
And he is one of the shorter competitors at 5'6", so we saw Thomas Pitzl previously get through that in a similar manner, but I think he had a little bit more height on Mercati. But all in all, good effort there from Mercati Sanders.
Next up is Xander Waller, who is one that we should definitely keep an eye on. He's performed incredibly well in the past. Oh.
And Xander, actually, we just found out, is scratching, and so yesterday in the qualifying round, he had a pulley incident on qualifier number 2. So I think it was just a little too risky. It was a little worse than he thought it was, unfortunately. And finger injuries, as we all know as climbers, are not ideal, and you never want to make it worse, especially at a competition, because competitions, they throw everything at you. So it makes it really difficult to be able to take care of that during a competition. Up next is Cody Stevenson from Boulder, Colorado. 6'2" with a +3. Pretty nice wingspan. Easy pistol squat, being 6'2".
I think he just achieved that height, actually, too, yesterday. I remember seeing him last year, and he was not this tall. It's so interesting seeing all these youth athletes who are now graduating to adult events, and Megan and I, both as coaches, have known so many of them for so long that we showed up to this event and didn't recognize half of them because they're so tall.
And they're all taller than me, so that feels great. Cody getting through this lower section, choosing to wrap that left hand pinch. Kind of getting a little botched up here. See the foot being a little high for him, but making it through it nicely. He's probably going to have to try to start standing up pretty quickly here just because he is so tall.
He's
Nicely
cruising.
done. Yeah, looks really smooth. Going for that intended beta with that left foot crossing through.
Walking in Memphis. Thunder playing on the red side pull there. Brad Weaver, our route setter, described the yellow block hold as soapy. So maybe that's why a lot of them don't want to grab it. It is slippery and bubbly.
And you can see that there's a lot of shoe rubber on it, which always starts to create that soapy texture. And we are in a pretty humid state, so it's gonna happen nicely into that Gaston. Just needs to get his foot up. It's looking really smooth here. I know he was a little disappointed with his performance yesterday. Fell a little
Quite.
early on one of the routes, but looks like he's turning it on today. And as a youth athlete, he's been on the youth national team many years in the lead discipline, and he's no stranger to this discipline and doing well in it. It's just new for him in terms of being an adult.
Right. And I think Cody's a very avid ice climber, and he's actually on the U.S. ice climbing national team as well. He's done several ice climbing World Cups, so competing at that high level, although it's incredibly different, is something I think that's going to come in handy for him.
Yeah, he
Under
definitely
pressure.
handles the pressure really well.
Totally.
Just a
Awesome
close-up.
close-up.
That little finger,
those little
sharp
alien sloth fingers
biting crimp. Nice toe
in the
hook.
seam.
So this is an interesting approach with that little like foot wrap, but worked out nicely, really easily into that next hold. Really nice, staying low on that sloper.
That foot wrap I've seen a lot in several Colorado climbers. It's like a Carlo Traversi, like talon.
Angie Payne.
Yeah, totally.
And a slip there for Cody Stevenson, but really nice work and looking smooth the whole way through. As you saw a second ago, that nice pinch actually has a little jib on it to give them a little something extra to hold on to. But man, this is turning out to be quite the route. Quick little replay of Cody's maneuvering through this tiny crimp. I love how small it is.
I know, and I love the close-up. It's so, like, it really gives the audience and us, actually, because
We can't see
we're far
from the
away,
ground.
an idea of what these holds are that they're grabbing, you know?
17 points for Cody Stevenson. Quickly untying and gonna move along. We'll also see Cody later in the bouldering. And this is our new leader, Cody Stevenson. So we'll see if he can hold that top position with 17 points. Remember, we take 8 men to the final, as long as there are no ties.
And all of them qualified for semifinals. There were only 25 men in qualifiers, and so they had a little bit of a warm-up round yesterday.
Definitely makes today a little more full of pressure. And
sure.
I mean, I think, though, they're performing well. It is kind of nice to have that first day not feel so high pressure. So got Stefan Fellner stepping up to the wall next. Taking a quick refresh. Climbers have about a minute before they need to get on the wall. You'll notice that everybody takes a second to just review. Easy
So far,
step
we
up,
haven't lost anyone on that first move.
which is a great, great sign. We were a little worried about that.
Definitely.
This wrap section on the pinch hasn't really given anyone any issues. I feel like they just take a couple seconds and then move their hips to the right and kind of keep going, which has been really good because I think Brad was talking about how it might feel a little tricky.
It's also beneficial in these rounds to go early. When you're first, second, third, fourth climber, there's not a lot of like excessive chalk on the holds and stuff doesn't start to feel greasy yet. And then later in the pack, if you're climbing, you know, 18, 19, 20 to 26, those holds can start to feel a little slippery. There's a little more boot rubber on them. Not as much texture. Walking in Memphis, move up to the soapy block here.
Does that really
Casual.
nicely. You can get a good look at that soapy block there. See all that shoe rubber. Route setters definitely did their job for running. Looking really comfortable here, Stefan Fellner. Sinking low into those heels so he doesn't slip.
Smooth transition into the undercling there.
That right foot is so key to get into that red undercling without feeling extremely spanned, so does that really nicely. He's got to rock his weight over into that Gaston. Struggling a little bit, just needs to get his foot up and he should be able to relax. There we go. I can breathe there for a second.
Brad called that a hand-foot match when we were sequencing, which I guess it's close enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, hand-foot match on the red undercling? What?
More like a hand-foot step up. It's got 3.5 minutes left, just a little more over 3.5 minutes. So it really is taking quite a bit of time to get through this bottom section. You can't really rush it, as all of the men have taken their time.
Yeah, the pace of this route is interesting, and you can kind of see them, you know, in a lower gear in the bottom section, and then when they start to get into the upper section, you'll see the pace increase and they start to rev up the engine a little bit. Ooh, he wanted to put his foot on that crimp, but the rope was in the way.
Yeah, that was a smart decision not to do that. Really quick reaction.
So the higher up they go, you're definitely going to start seeing them start to get a little snappier as soon as they get into where the holds get a little better and they can pull a little more, use their muscles.
Nice. Move into
stick.
that right hand. Go straight to the jib on top of the pinch. So this is where Cody Stevenson was. We'll see Stefan. Oh,
bummer.
Slip. But he's moving upwards, and Cody's score was 17 with no plus. So Stefan should get the plus there, I believe, since that number 17 hold is not a match hold. It's just for one hand. So he should get that plus and be our new leader.
It almost looked like he hesitated because he wanted to clip, and I think this being the first event where clips are not worth points. In the past, climbers have had to choose between either making a move or making a clip.
Yeah, we see Stefan here go for that yellow hold, but his foot slips just at the last minute on that right foot hold. But he still has that upward momentum, clearly making a move. There's no question about it. He should have a 17 plus score. And he does, and has become our new leader for the men's lead semifinal.
We just heard the 5-minute warning bell for the women's bouldering to start.
Which is really exciting because we will be doing bouldering and lead at the same time.
Lot to talk about.
Lots to talk about. We have 4 boulders here for the women today, and they'll have 5 minutes on each boulder. Now, one thing to quickly note is you will only see 1 zone hold per boulder, and there is a 4-point start, so 4 pieces of tape. All 4 limbs need to be on those pieces of tape before you can start in some orientation, no specific one, but whatever works. And here we have Colin Wills stepping up for the men's lead semifinal route. Kind of taking a second to figure out what he wanted to do there, but makes it up
every time.
I don't know why we're so nervous. They're all killing it, so we should relax.
Every time they walk up, I feel a little nauseous, and then they stick the first hold, and I'm like, okay.
I can breathe again. Working his way through these precarious feet. Kind of struggling here to find that position to get over on this pinch, but just move those hips to the right. So it looks like he should be in the right place, choosing the clip.
This is a section on the bottom, like we've been talking about going slow and being technical and like tippy-toeing across, but there are several hand movements that are done on this pinch, and a lot of them are nervous and they are over gripping, and although a lot of the bottom is balance and walking over, like he's moved his hands
8 times
already.
already.
That's you're not getting pumped doing that, you know.
I agree with you. I think that this is the exact part where people are probably pumping themselves out, because once they get their feet up on this next hold, the nice big hold with the 2 screw-ons, I feel like they can kind of relax a little bit as long as they trust their feet, but that other hold, you kind of have to be more engaged with your hands and your forearms, so it kind of gets you.
That weird open hand pinch kind of squeezing too, where it gets you deep in the forearms. It's not the crimp pump.
Nicely done on that clip and moving his right foot over, which we've seen a few of the men do already, but not the intended beta. Ooh, nice toe hook.
Short-lived. Both of us got so excited.
We were very excited.
Something new.
I think there's something to be said, too, about having to take your hands completely off hold on a route. I feel like that's not something you do a lot unless you're in Spain, like finding a no-hands rest outside.
Fat knee bar and rifle.
Yeah, exactly. But in a comp, you kind of want to be all points on when you're on the lead route. So
yeah, it's definitely risky.
It's risky, and I think you've seen every man slowly move and really be pressed up against the wall, because it's just pretty counterintuitive to comp climbing.
You don't want to risk having that one foot slip, taking your hands off.
A little
Balance.
more dynamic getting into that side pull, but does it nicely. Now this next section, we've seen a lot of the men get into this Gaston and strain a little bit. And as long as they can get their foot up, they're fine. Ooh, he's choosing to put his foot up first. Ingenious.
What a wizard. I know that was cool. I'm just kidding. It also looked easier to reach the right-hand Gaston, you know, it was ingenious. It's interesting that there's things that can be done so many, like even subtleties, so many different ways. We'll see that a lot more in the bouldering too, I think.
Trying to figure out where to put his right foot, going with the knee scum. Ooh. Really creative climbing there from Colin Wills. Probably fell a little earlier than he would have preferred, but not the lowest of points. He should get a pretty good score. I mean, our high point right now is 17 plus. We've seen the men get barely over halfway over the route. So, I mean, they meant to set a hard one, and I think they've done it.
Yeah, they nailed it for sure.
Maddie Dennis stepping up to women's #1 in the bouldering. Remember, the women have 5 minutes, and they haven't had a preview, so they're gonna take about 30 seconds, sometimes a minute. There are some athletes who will take a full minute of their time to preview.
Me, and then I time out finishing the boulder. I'm
so
notorious
there's some risk
for that,
there.
for sure.
But Maddie's getting on the wall, gonna get into that 4-point start. Looks valid. Now, we were looking at this boulder earlier, and we were thinking that a lot of the women in this field would like it. A lot of them are really good at crimps.
They like those little blocked volume footholds too. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff. Ooh, nice save.
Very good save.
A lot of blockers in this event too. These setters like to be really mean when they're putting holds on the wall. So they'll give you a great crimp. It's basically a jug, and then they'll throw a bunch of holds around it, so you can't get your little fingers in it.
And on the left, we have Palmer Larson on the men's lead semifinal. So we're going to give you that split screen to see both of the athletes.
Palmer is an interesting one to watch. I think he'd be one to keep an eye on for a possible dark horse finals qualifier. He's climbed incredibly hard routes outside, and he's the momentum team coach in Salt Lake, and so I think he's pulling double duty here as a coach and an athlete, and that's always really awesome to see.
Maddie Dennis easily working her way up into that left Gaston. She already got the zone for this climb, and this is still her first attempt, and it's looking like she should get a top here. And you see it, 2 hands on it. Nicely done by Maddie Dennis with a top.
Successful, but also it was really nice to watch. Her movement seemed to like flow really nicely and
very fluid.
No foot slips, like she was smearing really accurately on those volumes.
And now remember, with the boulders, it'll be tops, zones, attempts to top, attempts to zone. So she got the perfect score with her top and zone on her first try.
You want me to stay over here or go to the 2, 3, 4?
Palmer moving into this Gaston section.
He's got more time left than a lot of the competitors we've seen come before him. I think he looked like he cruised the bottom
About
section
a minute.
a little quicker and walked through his feet faster than the athletes.
And like
earlier.
you said, Alex, he's had a lot of lead experience and success outdoors and done well inside as well in the competitions in lead specifically. So we could definitely see him in the final if everything goes his way. 6 feet with a +4.
25 years
amazing.
old. He's younger than I thought.
Oh, really?
No offense, Palmer. I feel like we've competed together for so long, I thought he was closer to my age.
Well, I think he's also just very mature.
He is incredibly mature.
Not to say we're not, but. Palmer about to get out of this volume. Oh, no!
Yeah, he's mad. I would be mad.
Yes.
Completely unexpected.
And that's the thing about this route specifically, is it's so subtle. Any movement off balance and you could be off.
Yeah, one little lean out. You know, it's like pulling a piece of tape off the wall. As soon as you get the corner peeled, the whole piece of tape comes easier.
Exactly.
One shift in your weight and your momentum, and it can pull your whole body off. That was really unexpected, I think, for all
Super
of us.
unfortunate too, because he was looking really strong, really confident, had nice rhythm, really precise, but
didn't look that pumped.
Takes a second.
He was not ready to come down.
Gonna have our next competitor on the wall for the women coming up soon. Ella Von Duggan from Boulder, Colorado. Getting her shoes on to the right of Maddie Dennis right now. And so Maddie's gonna transition to problem number 2, and she will then rest there because she got her boulder done very quickly. She has all that extra time.
That's ideal in a round, is giving yourselves, 7-8 minute rest if you're finishing your boulder early. They get 5 boulders, 4 minutes in this round.
This is Ella's first adult competition, actually. She's been a really successful youth competitor, and I'm sure she would have been competing a little sooner. I think she had signed up for the Sport Nationals for 2020, but we unfortunately had to cancel that, so it's nice to see that she came out for this event. And to make a semifinal in her first adult competition is amazing. The younger athletes are obviously always capable, but I think that it's an added pressure coming into that adult realm. I think they get kind of nervous, so it's so cool to see when they can overcome that and just climb like they know how to climb.
Exactly.
Derek New is up on the men's lead semifinal route. Moving through that pinch section quickly as Ella gets established on women's number 1. Ooh, just misses that. A little different approach than Maddie Dennis.
It's interesting to see, coming out in semifinals, you're trying to make finals, you're trying to make the national team, and the ultimate goal when you come out is do not fall. And so for me, I tend to climb like tentatively and hesitantly because I'm so nervous, especially on the first route, and you kind of just want to get the jitters out of your system. And I was talking to some of the athletes yesterday, and you're almost relieved when you have your first fall because you get it out of your system. Oh no.
Very early fall there from Derek New. Totally unfortunate. just didn't have the right body position there. I agree with you, Alex, though. Like, there's something about taking that first fall and knowing that the world didn't just end to where you can just relax and then let your body do what it does.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, I fell. Now I can try hard. You know?
I fell.
Like,
I'm still here. Everything's okay.
Right.
Let's go.
Like, ideally, you want to flash everything and have a perfect flash round, but sometimes that first fall is like you can breathe again.
Ella taking a second to look at the boulder again. Seems like she's having an issue finding that body position. It is a little tricky with the blocker. Kind of don't want to walk your feet, but you definitely need to.
It was interesting also seeing Maddie Dennis come out first. In my opinion, I think she qualified surprisingly low. And 2020 Bouldering Nationals, she was in finals.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. She was 5th, I believe, at 2020 Bouldering Nationals, or actually, she might have been 4th. But I think she didn't really have her best day yesterday.
Right.
But
so her coming out and hiking that boulder is not surprising, and it might set us up for an interesting flip of results.
Exactly. Anthony Lessick on men's semifinal. It's pretty dynamic foot placement to that great technic hold. Moving through this pinch section. He's climbing really confidently, which I always love to see, especially on a very precarious
nice
section like that. You know someone means business. Looks like she was gonna walk her feet a little more, but then she didn't. Ooh, gets it nicely. Looks like she got a little bit of a toe jam there.
Gross. Toe jam.
Needs to get her foot inside and not on that slippery section of the dual text hold to then move to the zone.
These are all the exact same holds put in a little
cluster.
Curmudgeon-y, yeah. You can Gaston, you can Thundercling, you can Mono, you can Cramp.
Having trouble figuring that section out as Anthony is trying to figure out if he wants to go straight into that red hold. He is on the taller side with 6 feet in height, so he shouldn't be as stretched out, but I think making a better decision and crossing that foot through.
On the soapy block. There we go. That was the first time we've seen him seem to be like hesitant in his movement. Otherwise, he's been climbing like a boss.
Exactly, but
that's what the route setters are forcing, you know?
He still, again, just like Palmer, has a little bit more time than we saw a lot of the earlier men have. So no real need to rush. Ella really struggling trying to find that right body position and where exactly she wants to grab the hold. Only 13 seconds left for her. Anthony took a good bit of time there to like shake out and regroup, which I think would be really smart. So Ella's not going to get a zone there, which means that she'll have a 0 for that boulder and just have some attempts.
And that's, if you're just tuning in, a different scoring format than what we've used in the past. USA Climbing in the past has done a 3-zone format, 5, 10, 15, sometimes eliminating the 5 or the 15. And then the top is 25. And so we have completely switched over to IFSC rules to be globally homogenous and better prep our World Cup team and our US national team for competing abroad. And it's tops and zones.
Exactly. Makes it less tricky when they go and do those international competitions. Earlier fall for Anthony Lessick, I expected him to go a little bit further, but like we said earlier, those slips will happen. Maddie Dennis just got on to women's number 2. You can see her in the background, and we also have Callie Close on women's number 1. Pressing up into those crimps that are all clustered together just so you can barely get anything from them. So nice, those route setters. They're just trying to challenge
friendly people, them. Make my sausage fingers really angry.
Maddie Dennis taking another look at women's number 2. It's pretty hard right off the bat. There's a really big jump right from the start. And Maddie's only about 5 feet tall. I actually believe she wrote 5 feet and 1/8 of an inch. She's so funny. She's very exact.
Give her that extra eighth.
Her mom was like, did Maddie literally write 5 feet and 1/8 of an inch? That's hysterical.
This is an incredibly powerful paddle, too. They want you to go double.
Callie back up on women's number 1. Looks like she found a
mono.
little, yeah, a nice
Gross.
index finger mono. Oh, that cross through. She was so close with her feet. Maddie getting one hand on that first hold, but not getting that momentum. She's going to need to use her momentum to get to that zone hold. And for her, especially being a lot smaller, she's going to need to jump really hard. Timothy Kang is up on the lead semifinal route for the men.
Another, in my opinion, dark horse favorite. He could totally come out and make finals.
Yeah, he's actually been doing a lot of sport climbing outside since the pandemic. Usually bouldered a lot, but actually started getting on a rope outside, which has been really cool to see. And I agree with you. If all things go according to plan, he could get pretty far on this route.
Yeah, he's climbed some hard things, I think, in the Hurricane in St. George, Utah. And then previous to that, he did Too Big to Flail in Bishop.
Yep.
He soloed that, which is basically a sport route. So he's got a great head for pressure.
This makeshift slab is not going to deter him in any way, shape, or form. He keeps it together mentally. About 1.5 minutes left for the women. So Callie close, trying to figure out how to get to that zone. Your goal is always to get to the zone here because you want to put some points on the board.
Yeah, I think her body and her hips are too far to the left. And when we saw Maddie, she walked her feet through and then you could lean to the right. And so with her lower body being stuck over to the left, it's basically like an anchor keeping her from making that like movement to the right. Nice, buddy. You'll notice actually that his fingernails are painted, and that has been scientifically proven to make you a stronger crimper.
Remember when you used to not want to paint your nails?
Yeah, and then I figured out that it makes you crimp harder. Scientifically proven.
All those scientists.
Lots of data.
Really smooth through this section that we've seen a lot of the men struggle with. Callie in a split. I think she's having a hard time, like you said, moving her hips to the right, but mainly because I don't think she's trusting herself in that position because she is very tall. She is 6 feet tall. She is our tallest competitor.
Yeah, we were able to see Maddie sort of just like walk right through, and I think she's having trouble.
There's a whole foot difference between them.
And having that center of gravity lower on those volumes, on those feet, might make the transition a little easier.
Exactly.
Higher center of gravity. It's really hard to sink low and then put your feet in those volumes like that. Nice, Tim.
That foot wrap again that we've been seeing a few times. It's looking really calm, cool, and collected over here.
Yeah, he's climbing well.
Oh,
that I think would be our high point.
I think he'll be tied though with Stefan because if there's no usable surface. So that's a really good score for him. So he should have 17 plus as well. And for the women, we've got them on the boulders with Campbell Serenopoulos on women's number 1. Was having some nice movement there.
That was a good
right off the bat. Yeah, exactly. It'll be an easy fix. She had her body in the right position. As Ella Van Duggan brushes that first hold that the women are going to have to jump to and continue that momentum into the zone hold.
Megan and I,
I was just about to talk about that.
We're playing around on some of these boulders last night, and when we were forerunning, there was a fat blue jug in the middle of that dyno boulder, and Megan and I approached the route setters, and we were like, you guys, this is way too easy. It's like V3. And then they were like, you guys, the jug's not on.
And we were like, Well, that changes everything.
We were like, oh my gosh, they made a huge mistake. It's like V3.
They were talking about it as if they were worried, and we were like, what are you talking about?
I think it might be too hard. And Mike and I were like, what?
Nice save from Campbell Serenopoulos, just digging into that mono on her index finger. She's in a really good position right now to get to that zone hold.
Still plenty of time left on the clock. 3 minutes is
a lot of
time to get stuff done for sure.
Oh man, little slip there, but she can get back up there easily. And now with the zone, she can't just touch it. She has to actually make use of it. So move her body position to the right or move the foot. So it's not until she actually makes that movement that she'll get the credit for the zone. Brian Squire is up on the lead route for the men. We saw him at the combined, I believe, in 2020. Trying to figure out this tricky foot section. Getting that toe hook that we saw earlier. Actually keeping it. This one is not short-lived. Great move into that right foot. Puts you in a great position to then fully move into that side pull.
A lot of chalk ending up on that soapy block, and I think what we will notice it's different still about this event than IFSC is there's a brush break in the IFSC semifinals, and they
definitely earlier than he wanted to.
That spot is spitting people, this whole route is spitting people off where they're not expecting it, and you really have to stay on your game. And that's, you know, that's what Brad explained to us.
Exactly.
Like, it's a mental battle through
the whole
2/3 of the route, and then the last third is physical.
Do you have enough energy left and mental capacity to keep moving?
Right.
Looks like Campbell Serenopoulos got a top on women's number 1.
No,
so one top in 3 tries. Putting her in second right now below Maddie Dennis. Nice.
Awesome. That's the sequence. That's exactly
that
what
is
the
the sequence.
wanted.
And she still has a little over a minute left, so she can hopefully make that work. But that's the closest we've seen anybody get to sticking that jump so far.
And the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel on it. Your muscle memory kind of like comes into play, and all it takes is sticking it one time to go to the top, you know?
Exactly. Nice little close-up here of Ella jumping to that hold. She gets a pretty good bit of momentum, but isn't able to hold the swing on the zone. Maybe she'll try to go with 2 hands to the zone this next time.
I think they're gonna have to keep 2 hands on, either on the first blue or double to the zone. We did see some of the route setters able to hang it 1 hand. But
meanwhile, on the lead wall, it looks like we have Mike Bacchino up there. Maybe there's a bit of blood on the hold. I'm not exactly sure. But if there is blood, it means he has to clean it. So the men have a little extra break right now in the running just because they need to take care of that technical issue. Great climbing from Ella Van Duggan, getting super close on that second boulder. As Callie Close approaches the second boulder now, and Maddie Dennis is on the 3rd boulder.
this 3rd boulder, I think, is going to be a really cool combination of power and technique. There's a lot of like trickery to be done with your toes, and you're also squeezing those blocks.
Yeah, a lot of body tension and biceps.
I was training specifically for this boulder all winter, sitting on my couch doing a lot of bicep curls.
Callie Close took a different method on women's number 2, trying to go with a 1-2 with her left hand to the first hold and then immediately with her right hand to the second. Maddie Dennis getting into women's number 3.
You saw
trying
her,
to move into that zone hold.
Reach for the zone like she was going to try to use it just to get points for her, and that's a strategy that it's interesting. Like when I was doing 2020 Bouldering Nationals, because you have to use it, you can fake like you're using it, if that makes sense, in a not cheating way. Like she could have pressed against it and just moved her feet around, and that theoretically is using it, even if she's not using the actual part of it. So we might see that. Oh, awesome.
So close to a top for Maddie Dennis. Had the right idea. And we've got Morgan Taji on women's number 1. Getting into that zone nicely. I believe this is her first attempt. Looking really comfortable on those volumes.
Oh, you jinxed her.
Totally my fault.
It is.
She just rushed that last bit of the movement. Otherwise, she was looking great, but she has plenty of time to give it another go. Callie Close looking like she's going to get back on women's number 2, see if we can see this zone hold stuck. Super close. A little too much momentum. She's really going to have to activate the biceps in order to kill that swing. It's a lot of swing.
Make it maybe less of a jump. Yeah, it looked like maybe she landed on her ankle a little weird, and
I almost think it would be better for her to try to go 2 hands to the first hold to slow it down. I think she's moving too fast. Because she is taller, she can go left hand, right hand, and it's just creating way too much momentum for her.
Yeah, a little too much power, and because she is taller, she can do more of like a dynamic stand and less of a launch.
Exactly. Maddie is refamiliarizing herself with how she got to where she was before, which, especially on a volume boulder like that, you kind of don't remember how you got there sometimes, and you don't want to waste an attempt trying to figure out. Yeah. So she was just kind of reviewing it in her mind, which is a really smart move so that she's as efficient as possible.
That's such a good point. Like, you could totally get all the way up to the finish and then not remember how you did it because there's so much tic-tacky, like, put together squeezing on something like this. If she gets back to the top, I'll be curious to see if she wants to do the right hand to the finish again with the press down with the left, or if she decides to go left hand to the finish. It looks like it's set up better for the left hand, but I'm sure that she could also hold the right hand with the press.
Morgan Taji back into that zone hold. Now needs to delicately walk her feet up this time. She rushed it a little on the on her first attempt and has one finger on the top and just needs to get the other hand up there. And a top for Morgan Taji. Just under a minute left as Maddie gets back on women's number 3, seeing if she can get back up to where she was before. So close to the top. It's so heartbreaking when you know you've already been up there and you see the clock counting down, just trying to figure out how to get back up there and make that top happen. So close for Callie on that zone hold.
Especially Maddie getting up to the top on her first try. It's got to be frustrating knowing that you basically flashed the boulder to the finish, and then not getting back up there again is maddening.
Exactly, and I think it happens more when you do get far on your first try because it happened so quickly and you weren't really expecting it. And then it's easy to forget how you got there. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's happened to me a million times.
That, or you expect it to feel easier because you've done it.
And then you second guess yourself.
Right, and then on your first try, it's a flash round. This is like you're trying to find the best climber, and it's the best flasher. And so everyone comes out trying as hard as they can their first try, and then maybe in your second, third, fourth, you forget how hard you were trying. First go, best go is the motto. That's USA Climbing's new motto. It's trademarked, actually. First go, best go.
Nakaya Sanders taking a second to figure out how she wants to start this boulder. We saw her brother Mercati earlier in the men's semifinal for lead. They also have another sister, Silva Ray. The climbing Sanders family. It's pretty exciting to watch all of them. Now, Nakaya is very good at slab, so
extremely.
I would imagine she doesn't have much of an issue.
You should not say anything because you're going to jinx her. Oh, great.
Swear it's not my fault.
Next time we'll be like, oh, this person sucks at slab. Opposite them up.
She is really good, though, at figuring out how to be creative on the boulder and try a lot of different things and not get too put in a box.
Her movement is incredibly fluid on slab. She's been in Salt
Very
Lake.
Flexible,
yes.
too.
She's been in Salt Lake training at the training center a lot, and it's been cool to watch her come out and sort of float up things. Now we're both jinxing her.
It's okay. There's still 3 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock, so plenty of time. And with slab specifically, it's all about being patient and finding those body positions. Campbell Serenopoulos getting up into the jump. 2 hands up there, but not enough momentum, so she's going to need to jump a little bit harder. Another one of our athletes that's on the shorter side. Kaya nicely into these crimps now. Just needs to keep moving those feet. Oh, a little slip there.
Those volumes are dual techs on the white side, and they're like sticky skateboard deck grip tape on the inside. And so when they're, like, you can see that it starts wide and then narrows, and at the wide part you can wiggle your toes in to get the texture, and I think when it narrows it's harder to squeeze your toe in and you end up standing on a bit of the dual techs.
100%. Ella Van Duggan has been struggling to get into this first hold. This start is very difficult. It's all biceps, and you really have to squeeze and then go into that undercling and kind of hold on for dear life.
Explosive, like double undercling into an undercling. Super bicep-y.
And there's a little jib that she can pinch on the outside, but she's not actually finding that, and I think that would be kind of helpful for her. So we'll have to see if later on in her time she's able to make that work. Oh, early slip there for Campbell Serenopoulos, which that right hand starting hold is not very big. And you really have to generate a lot, and especially as a shorter competitor, you really have to focus on being explosive and generating. So she just kind of overdid it.
The harder you have to explode on your feet, the more you have to pull on the right hand to also like get you up and going to the right. And so it could be the reason for that pop. Come on, Nikaya. Atta girl.
Nicely into the stem. Man, her foot just keeps slipping on that slippery part of the dual texture. See if Ella can hold the tension there. Very good. Finds that jib and gets the knee bar. Little reprieve for a second. Working her way up these volumes. Tricky body position here. Has to get into that right hand, I believe, before the left hand. I think it would be better.
No, that does not count as
it does not.
Using, you have to. But if she had pressed against it and moved her hips or her shoulders or like shifted her momentum a little bit, they could have given it to her. But they're looking for functional movement
and usage.
Yeah.
Really surprising that Nikaya is not getting into this zone. Just those feet keep slipping, but her body positions look great. Ella was told she didn't get the zone, so she's trying to figure out how she can get back up into there, but doesn't have enough time, so we're gonna move on to our next round. And the men are finally back after a quick technical. And we have, there was actually just a brush break. Interesting. It's Raymond Hansen up next for the men. Nice to see the men climbing again. Moving into that pinch, where we've seen a lot of the men spend a good chunk of time trying to find that right body position. Especially because it's, the third move in on the route. I think everyone's a little hypersensitive to finding that specific comfortable position in order to move. Gradually moving his feet up, moving into the no hands area. Walking to Memphis.
Taya Wolf is getting high up on women's number 1 for the bouldering. Reaching out to the zone here in a second.
Her foot placement looks really good. Just needs to figure out how to get into that hold with her left hand. It looks like she's got maybe 2 fingers, but it kind of looks like 1. As Raymond crosses through on that foothold easily. The first look at women's number 4. This pretty interesting overhung climb with a pretty intense start. There are 3 pieces of tape on the left hold, which means the women are going to have their 1 hand and 2 feet likely on that, and they have to kind of pull up and throw it into a tow hook or a bicycle, which is really aggressive right off the start. And Maddie, I'm not even sure if she can fully reach. She might have to jump into it a little bit.
This is what we were talking about last night. Because I could reach the start holds pretty easily from the ground, but my hands were up above my head. And there are a lot of shorter athletes, like having to jump to reach a start hold is always insecure.
Looks like she's having some trouble trying to generate to move out left into that undercling. Raymond is working his way through the volumes, looking nice. We've seen a lot of the men here getting ready to approach where our high point is for the men. He's just a few holds away. But as we've seen, this part is actually very insecure as well. We've seen a lot of the men fumble here. Looks like he's second guessing himself a little bit. Can't quite get comfortable enough to keep moving. Needs to trust his feet.
So an interesting thing that just happened in the bouldering with Maddie is she tried brushing the start hold, but couldn't quite reach it, and so she jumped to brush the start hold, and that counts as an attempt. And so you saw the judge come up and tell her you can't jump to brush a start, that's an attempt.
Which is a rule that's been around in the IFSC, and Maddie has competed internationally on the youth side. But like we were saying earlier, because you're not competing in those competitions all of the time, it's really easy when the rules were different from one another to
Switch
get them
back
confused.
and forth.
Yeah. So it's really nice that we've now switched fully over, because then everyone can have just the one set of rules ingrained.
Right, it might take some getting used to, but minute left with Taya going for the finish here.
Really smart to still continue to take her time, because we've seen a few of the athletes slip there, and she doesn't have too much time left, so to start over would be rough, but she's not going to have to, because there's a top for Taya Wolf.
So with the start positions in IFSC, there aren't designated hand and foot start holds. It's just 4 pieces of tape and kind of choose your own adventure. And so often we'll see different start positions, not so much today because it is more straightforward, but there being 3 pieces of tape on one hold and 1 on the other. Like someone could totally throw like a high heel on that right start and then have like 3 on the other. And so it's not designated specifically, but yeah, it's choose your own adventure, and that can be part of the hardest part of the route, is figuring out what is a hand and what is a foot to start, and like establishing on the wall can be the crux.
Yeah, in today's round it is a little more straightforward, but that can sometimes, like you said, it can take like a good chunk of time to just figure out how you want to start this. Ellis Ernsberger is now on the lead route for the men, moving through this beginning section pretty quickly. Also getting on the wall pretty quickly. He didn't spend too much time reviewing the route. And for the women, Maddie Dennis's round is done, and she is in that first place position currently with 1 top and 2 zones. Yes, and that top is a flash, so that's going to serve her well. Ellis trying to figure out how he wants to approach this precarious section nicely with the cross through and that right foot up. That seems to be the best method that we've seen and most efficient one for the men to be stable there. Campbell Serenopoulos on women's number 3.
This is her first go, I believe, and she's having a great one. Left
1 hand on the
finish.
top.
Awesome.
Needs 2. And a top for Campbell Serenopoulos, which puts her in a great position now, because having the 1 top puts you in that first,
second place.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now. And sometimes it's a one-top round. Like I've been in World Cups where you think you're having an absolutely horrendous round, and then you like top the fourth boulder, and you make finals in fourth place. Like you're like, oh, I'm doing so terrible, and then you figure out that everyone else is also doing terrible. It's awesome.
That's the tricky thing. It's you never know what's going on until you're done. So that's why you can never give up, because it's not over till it's over. Ellis Ernsberger getting ready to approach that high point. He's a few holds away. Looks pretty smooth still, very confident in his movements, especially on these precarious holds. Holds it,
awesome
so this is now our
stick.
new high point.
And a foot slip.
I know, right?
Stuck with a foot slip.
Another difficult move, isn't able to make it, but we'll get that plus for
He'll be our new
movement.
leader. And you saw him look at the clip and then look at the hold and hesitate with what he wanted to do, because in the past, clips have been points.
Exactly, so he should have a score of 18 plus. And we've got Campbell Serenopoulos. Oh, she has 2 tops, so she is actually in first place. I was going to say, I thought she had another top.
The first one.
Yep,
right?
the first in 3, and the second in 1 attempt with that flash. So it's really good placement for her in this round. And again, like I said earlier, this is her first adult competition. So she's off to a great start.
Totally. Very decorated Team ABC youth climber.
Exactly. Ella Von Duggan struggling with this start, which we mentioned was pretty intense. Kind of taking a step back to look at it again.
Yeah, go for
I haven't
it.
seen a lot of action on the fourth women's boulder yet.
Our new leader, Ellis Ernsberger, with a score of 18 plus on the route. See if he can hold that position. It's really nice that we've got a new high point. This route is proving to be quite difficult and pretty tricky. Just anything can happen on it.
Yeah, it was cool to see someone stick that little yellow crimp.
And with that foot cut, it wasn't just an easy stick. He still had to fight for it.
Totally.
Up next, we have Isaac Leff on the men's semifinal. Moving into the first tricky section, where you want to avoid getting too pumped, as Ella Von Duggan pulls on and struggles to pull on to women's number 4. Pretty brutal start. Just
Right?
it's very difficult.
Not only is establishing on the boulder hard, a lot of core to get both of your feet up to where your hand is exactly, and then it's super powerful to have to pull up into that next undercling. It's kind of like far and left away.
And that start hold is a dual textured hold too, so not only are you trying to squeeze there, but it's also a little slippery, so there's a lot going on. Isaac moving smoothly through this balancy section.
That'll end time for the women's bouldering, and we'll have a new fresh face on women's number 1. Quinn Mason was on number 1, and I did not see her top from where I'm sitting.
She did not top, but she did get the zone on her second try, so she does have a score on the board.
It can make all the difference.
I feel like whenever I looked at a boulder, I was always like, just get to the zone, get to the zone.
Exactly.
That's your first goal.
You start thinking too far ahead about getting to the top and flashing, and then you forget about the objective in front of you, and you can rush, or you can slip, or you can make a mistake. And objective number 1 is grab the zone.
And use the zone.
Right. Don't just put your pointer finger on it. That used to be a rule. All you had to do was like gently touch it.
Exactly. Isaac and his feet up into that volume section. Gonna clip here from that really small crimp, but it is a pretty good crimp, as we've seen a lot of the men get there. He's choosing to clip a little later. Morgan Taji trying to figure out how to hold that volume on the right. Really nice and secure for Isaac moving into that section. Loses it on the cross though. I feel like they're over gripping so much. It's just so hard not to.
Nerves. I mean, there's so much at stake here. This is like the USA Climbing National Team Trials event. This is not the national championships. Those will come later in the year. This is only to select the US team in all disciplines for the entire rest of the year. These will be our World Cup athletes for 2021, and they are like feeling the pressure, you know?
And on top of it, there is so much going on with the World Cup circuit itself, including the fact that there will be 2 World Cups in Salt Lake back-to-back. So I think that's another big part of it. Taya Wolf sticking the dyno, first athlete today to get that zone there. Needs to slow it down a little bit to move into this next section to see if she can get a top. Really good save.
Super cool.
She doesn't want to have to do the jump again.
No. She's a very powerful athlete. I've been watching her train at the training center in Salt Lake a little bit. It doesn't surprise me at all that she stuck this jump, and the way that we saw the route setters do this was a high right heel on the zone, but they brought their left hand back down to the first paddle hold.
Here's another look at that awesome dyno that Taya Wolf was able to stick. Gets both hands on the first hold, and then like we were expecting to see, both hands moving to the second to hold that swing and make it less aggressive. Got a little bit cruxed out trying to figure out how to get to that crimp, but was doing the right thing. Just needs to bring that left hand down to create more leverage for her to rock over on her hips more.
And that'll open her up a little bit more to be able to use that right heel. A lot of that force is going to come on the right heel to get up to that blocked crimp.
Quino Francia on the lead route for the men now, out of Vertical World in Seattle. We saw him at the combined invitational in 2020. One of our younger competitors at 16, but started in 2020 doing the 2 adult competitions that we were able to have.
Coming from the Vertical World dynasty, you would say.
Right.
Vertical
Definitely
World
have a few of those here.
athlete, yeah. A lot of Vertical World athletes coming into semifinals.
Morgan Taji is back up in that section again for women's number 3. She still hasn't quite figured out how to get in the right body position to get into that zone.
This is an awesome one to watch because not only have have the athletes been doing it differently, but from each other, but they've been doing it differently from themselves.
Exactly.
Nice. Taya sticking zone on the dyno again.
See if she can figure out how to get to the top from there. This time she doesn't really have a lot of time. Taking a second to shake out.
We saw the route setters when they were forerunning. They did it with a right heel, left hand back down to the first paddle hold. They also did it with a left foot on like sandwiched, but it definitely made the move harder. And then when I was sequencing it, and Taya just tried this, I considered just campusing to it, you know? I'm so much longer that high heel would be really hard for me and put me in a small box. And I know that crimp is bad and it's blocked, but maybe we'll see one of the later competitors just campus.
Quino Francia looked like he slipped a little bit before he was ready, but he was still up in one of the higher sections of the route, not to the high point, but just below it, so he'll be around the same place as a lot of the other men that we've been seeing. We've got another new athlete out on women's number 1, Sienna Kopf, or as her friends call her, Cece. I actually don't know if anyone really calls her Sienna.
No, and it's so weird. Her Instagram handle is Sienna, and every time I go to tag her in something, I type out Cece, and I'm like, ugh, where is she?
Rocking the pigtails today. She's a big fan of the space buns, but looks like she's going with the pigtails, and I always love seeing what she's going to wear as well. She always has great outfit choices and animal prints, and it's really good. Another very good slab climber.
I actually went as Cece for Halloween this year. I had leopard print shoes, a leopard print jacket, and a leopard print top, and some super cool tights, and space buns.
You guys are similar in height, too.
I walked in and people actually thought I was Cece.
Quino Francia with 17 plus, which we've seen for quite a few of the men now. We're going to have a bit of a tie there. Or not a tie, but he's in second place right now because we go back to the day before.
A little bit of a bottleneck in that section.
Yeah, definitely
which
a bottleneck.
The route setters never really want, but can't really control.
We have 3 athletes who have that 17 plus score, as Joe Goodacre is now taking his turn at the men's route, moving really fast through that bottom section.
Another one I didn't recognize coming back to this event because his hair has grown so much in the last year.
He also wants us to draw attention to the fact that he has a cool headband on to keep his hair out his face. Yesterday he was like, "Did you see my headband?" And I didn't.
No, because it's cool is debatable because it's the same color as his hair. If it was leopard print like Cece's shorts, I think we would call it cool. Last time I saw Joe competing,
Good
awesome
save by Cece. Really nice movement.
She's a wicked good slab climber, so I'm jinxing
Just
her.
kind of missed the hold. It was weird. Her index finger got caught underneath. She didn't quite get it.
Nice to see Joe able to weight his feet. Last time I saw him, he had a broken toe. He was competing at the World Championships with a broken toe.
Ugh. A little bit too quick there. He was looking really good, but just too fast. You have to still be patient in that section. And he has really long legs, so to step up like that, I think he just like rushed it a little bit and kind of fell off balance. Definitely not the score he was looking for.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how the men actually play out. A lot of really surprisingly low slips, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those routes where anything can happen. 10 points for Joe Goodacre. And it was so surprising he couldn't even try to fall up. He just was shocked that he was falling. Campbell Serenopoulos trying something different to move off of this start hold. Sienna Kopp. Don't know why I just said Sienna. Should have just said Cece.
The goal here, I think, for Cece is to try to not get in her head. She knows she's an incredibly talented slab climber, and she does not need to flash this boulder to make finals. All she has to, get to the top. And even if she doesn't get to the top of this, there are 3 other boulders, and so trying to sort of keep it together here, even knowing that she has fallen, is really important. Super smooth tension. No.
Just rushing it. And we just saw Quinn Mason on the left stick that dyno and get the zone and try that campus method to the crimp, but it didn't work out for her either, so she's going to have to figure out a different way to do it. Charlie Osborne up on the lead route. He did really well in the qualifier, got really high on men's number 1, which didn't have a top, but he had the high point for a lot of the day. He was also at the combined invitational this past year.
Cece, 15 seconds left, back on number 1. 15 seconds. If she can move quickly, it can be plenty of time.
She looks a little frazzled on that one. She's, like you said, I think she got a little too in her head and was kind of rushing it when she didn't need to, but then ended up having to rush at the end because she rushed earlier.
And she knows that slab is one of her strengths, and what you and I were talking about last night is in the past for years when you came out for a round, historically the first boulder was the easiest boulder and they progressively got harder, and so you knew if you botched the first boulder that you were going to have a very hard round, and so that's not the case now. They're all completely in mixed matched order. The first boulder could be the hardest boulder, and then you get shut down and get in your head, and the next 3 boulders you do, or they're more doable, and that's sort of something you have to keep in mind and keep together. Is it's not progressive in difficulty anymore.
Yeah, there's no plan in terms of how it's going to go. You just have to try the boulder and then forget about it and move on to the next one. Charlie is looking very smooth, approaching the crux of the climb, as we've seen most of the men struggle here. He also has a lot of time left. He's been moving really quick through this. Another little slip. And I wouldn't give him the movement up, so I'm guessing his score will be 16. As he got control of that other hold. Yep. Sarah Kate Ashton, or SK as her friends call her, attempting that dyno.
Her mom, I believe, has been our COVID warrior here.
She is. She's checking everyone's COVID documents to make sure they were negative, taking temperatures. It's great to have our volunteers here this week. We definitely needed them, and we don't have an audience at this competition, so
it's dead silent.
It's dead silent aside from us talking and a little bit of music in the background.
So everyone coming into this event had to produce a negative COVID test very close to the event, within 72 hours of showing up to the venue. If you took it a week prior, you had to take another one. Awesome job,
Top
Emma
for
Hunt.
Emma Hunt. Very quick. I'm not sure if that was her first try, but it may have been. But
super exciting. She's
really
our
nice movement.
Current national champion speed climber as well.
And record holder with a time of 8.05 that she did at the qualifying event at Pan Americans. It was not a flash for Emma Hunt, but a top nonetheless on her second try. Just puts her in a really good spot right off the bat.
Yeah, she's going to ride that momentum.
In 2 attempts.
It's such an awesome feeling, like doing the first boulder, you know?
It's the best feeling. It's that feeling of relief.
Exactly.
There's an immediate relief and this sense that you can totally do everything in the round.
Right. It's, oh, thank God I did one, you know? You're not like, oh God, I didn't do it. Now I got to do the next one. And that's exactly what they're all thinking, that, you know?
Sure, you all recognize this athlete, Nathaniel Coleman, one of our Olympic qualifiers for the first ever Olympics for climbing that'll be happening in 2021.
We know his parents are watching. Hi, Roseanne.
We miss you.
We do. Our ISO runner.
And Nathaniel's been really working on lead recently, and I thought it was quite evident in the qualifying round. He looks very calm while he's climbing, and I mean, we all know he's so strong and so talented, but lead's been a discipline that he hadn't, you know, had as much success in prior, because he'd always focused on bouldering, but with the combined, he's really stepped it up. I mean, he even climbed 515 this year.
515 and V15.
I
think within 30 days.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's on fire right now, and it was nice to see him yesterday, and it's off to a great start right now.
He's climbing really slowly, but
controlled,
really smoothly, and he chose to do a little plie here instead of the walk it in Memphis step through.
See, that's an example of someone who really trusts their feet.
Right. Maybe he's been following the Adam Ondra ballet protocol.
Exactly. He's literally
this
not.
This is making me sweat.
I know. The close-ups on his feet are freaking me out. But he's good.
Turn around and wave. Hi, Mom.
Now he has his right foot further out and his left foot on the left hold, so it would be better if he was crossed so he could bring that right foot out to the yellow jib, but he is pretty tall. He's about 5'11", so he can probably not have too much of an issue coming into that red hold, but it might be better to get his right foot out, which he's doing. Smoothly into that side pull.
One of the most mentally sound competitors, I would say. He practices a lot of mental technique, headspace, and I think he does that with a lot of like breathing and meditation, and you can kind of see that in his climbing. He's mentally incredibly sound.
Everything is done with intention with Nathaniel. I feel like the mental fortitude, like you were talking about, is so strong, and I think it's great, especially for this Olympic qualified team, because he's a great example as one of the older athletes on the team and can help everyone together so that hopefully when they go to the Olympics, everything works out and they're all able to perform and not be bogged down by a mental block.
I remember, I think it was like 2014 when we were still doing World Cups. We were in Canada, and he was the only U.S. athlete to make a final, and we were going absolutely insane, screaming for him, and no one else in the entire venue was cheering.
I don't think they knew who he was.
No.
That was his like first adult World Cup.
We were going ballistic, and it was obnoxious, I'm sure. And then the very following weekend, he made finals again in Vail, both times on the podium, both times second place, and so he's a seasoned veteran. You would say.
Most definitely.
I would say. We could say.
We do say. Smoothly into this section, approaching the high point. He needs to control this next hold to have the high point.
Brad Weaver described that move as a hard lock off to what is finally a somewhat decent hold on this route. The entire move up, the entire time up, they've been really hard, bad, small crimps, slopey, soapy.
So Nathaniel will be our new leader, but unfortunately falling on that next move. But
that is enough for him to make finals because he qualified in 6th place and currently has the high point.
Exactly, and we take 8.
The worst he could do is 6th.
Yep, and we take 8 to the men's final, and he should have a score of 19 plus with that. He was looking so strong here. He just didn't get fully over his body weight. And Brad Weaver told us earlier that that right hold that he's going to is terrible, and that move itself was going to be very difficult and a lot of tension and body control, and he wasn't able to get in there, but he made it. He created a new high point, and he's killing it. Oh, a top for CC Kops. Really fought hard to get into that heel hook and get that crimp. I think she kind of knew she had to fight after not doing the first boulder, which is something that she excels at, the slab, so she turned it on women's number 2.
I'm not talking because I'm cheering. Silently with my arms.
Really good dyno. She chose to do what we saw Callie Close trying earlier with the left hand to the right hand and then 2 hands on the zone to catch that swing. Had no issues getting into this heel hook. Something she's very good at. She's very good hip flexibility, really fighting to get on that crimp and rock her hips up. Desperate to the final hold,
so sick.
But luckily that's a good hold.
Amazing.
She's able to walk away with the top.
This was
Such a good
something
heel.
she and I talked about yesterday. We had like a really great conversation about grit.
Nathaniel Coleman, our new leader, with 19 plus on the men's lead route. Now this route tops out at 29 holds. So as you can see, the route setters really made it difficult, and the men are having to work really hard for every point.
Right, it's a relatively short route at only 29 points. And that's usually, we would see in lead World Cups, halfway was about 25. And so if you got about 25 points, you got halfway, and that was usually enough to make a semifinal. And so here, having only 29 points, it seems like a relatively short route, so they really had to put a lot of difficulty into a condensed.
Ben Hanna on the semifinal route for the men, moving in to the section, choosing not to bring that right foot out and go more dynamically, which he was able to do, but we've seen a few of the men struggle there earlier. Nicely into that Gaston press.
Ben is another athlete residing in Salt Lake, frequenting the USA Climbing Training Center along with Nathaniel, Kyra, Cece, Taya. A lot of these
Chloe.
athletes relocated, and they get the coaching of our Olympic coach Josh Larson and a lot of World Cup style setting, boulders and lead. And they've done several mock comps throughout the COVID year, prepping for this event specifically.
Kylie Cullen on women's number 1. Another climber who's very good at slab, as you can see as she methodically walks her feet.
A dark horse for finals
100%.
for me as well. She competed at the Woman Up event against...
Top for Kylie Cullen.
It was myself, Puccio, Chloe, and she ended up winning.
Yep.
So she could totally be an athlete that makes finals.
Yeah, I think 2020 Bouldering Nationals when, actually, I think she ended up not competing. She had like an injury. Ben being dynamic, which is fun to see on this route since it is so precarious. I almost couldn't breathe there for a second because we've seen so many of the men choose to go very slow and controlled to a lot of the holds, but he's just, you know, sticking to his style.
Right in that bottleneck.
Didn't work there, but in the bottleneck, like you said, Ben was really just going for it, feeling no fear, jumping to that hold and holding the swing. Really risky, but he did it well, and he is a very dynamic climber and has a lot of power and finger strength, so was able to make it happen, but unfortunately was a little bit too low trying to go for that yellow crimp.
A lot of high-flying girls on women's number 3 now. Cece still has the only top of that boulder. Emma's a powerful boulder, a little bit on the taller side too.
Taya trying to figure out how to get to that next hole on hold on problem 4. We haven't seen any of the women stick the second hold on problem 4. It's proving to be a problem.
Awesome stick of the zone on women's number 3 by Emma Hunt.
Now she's got to get into this aggressive heel hook and figure out how to pull and move to that top hold. It's kind of hard to reach to the crimp with your heel up. It kind of pushes your hips out, so the women are trying to figure out how to get there. Looks like she's going to go left hand.
Which would be
not the best idea, but she figured that out already.
If you got points per hold, going left hand and controlling it would make sense, but here it's...
Looks like she's got herself in a better position, but she still has a bit of time to figure out
and that's
that
where
right
we
position.
saw with Cece and her hip flexibility, she was able to stay on the zone to do that move, and where we saw the root setters drop back down to the first paddle.
Dylan Barks is up on the lead route now.
In an attempt to not jinx him, I'm not going to say anything.
I was going to wait till he moved off of this hold.
I have no high hopes at all for him whatsoever. Please, please. I saw Dylan, he was doing the 2019 World Cup circuit as a boulderer. Man.
No. Something we did not want to see, and we were trying to not jinx as well. But that pinch, we were told by the root setters that that might be a very tricky position, and we've seen a lot of the men get through it, but Dylan just lost his balance, and instead of wrapping, he was trying to cross his hands, and it just didn't work out and threw him off. So unfortunate. That is not what he wants to happen, but he will be competing in the bouldering this week as well, so at least he has another chance, but I know he really wanted
redemption
there. 100%. Taya trying to use every bit of her time on the 4th boulder. Isn't able to make it happen, but
so far no women have gotten to the zone.
A really good round for Taya, though. She's currently in 2nd, so she's off to a great start for this week, and she'll just have to wait and see what happens in the rest of the round. Absolutely tragic for Dylan Barks. I know he's upset about that one, but at least he has the bouldering. So we've got Sienna Kopp brushing the holds on number 3. Ross Fulkerson in the men's lead. It's taking a second to review the route. It's Ashley Fisher on women's number 2.
Ashima out on women's number 1.
Yes, we have Ashima on women's number 1, and I am so happy that she is competing this week. I was unsure if she would be signing up for this competition. She's one of the athletes that was part of that couple of years trying to make the Olympic team, and it was just a grueling couple of years, and those athletes went through so much, and she didn't compete at 2020 Bouldering Nationals, so I was really excited to see her sign up for this competition.
Super cool. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I don't think I expected her to come. I know that she took some time off after the, like you said, grueling attempt at trying to qualify for the Olympics. And I was also really excited to see her name on the start list. And both of our birthdays are coming up soon. We share a birthday, April 3rd.
In case anyone wants to wish them a happy
In case
birthday.
anyone would like to.
They don't hear it enough. So.
We don't.
Ashima,
she'll shoot me a
smoothly
text, say,
through
happy
here.
birthday twin.
She did not have the best round yesterday in the qualifier for her, but already I feel like she's off to a much better start as she has the zone on her first attempt, and this slab climb is something that is definitely in her wheelhouse, and she's very good on her feet, very flexible, just trying to figure out this dead point move.
She's one of the, I think, 2 or 3 who did the slab boulder yesterday, which was women's number 5.
Yes. Just had a little bit of trouble generating there. Cece getting really high on women's number 3. Little mishap there on the zone, but she did get the zone, which zones are worth so much in this scoring system.
Plenty of time left, and a top for her on this boulder would be huge.
And Ross Fulkerson is starting to get to the difficult section of the men's route.
Sending hard outside lately.
Yeah, it's been nice to see so many of the athletes getting outside with that break from competition that isn't normally there. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the athletes took advantage of that time off from competition and really pushed themselves outside in a way that they haven't been able to before. And we saw a lot of difficult boulders and routes go down in this past year.
And it's such a different style of climbing, outdoor versus indoor. And I think you get strong indoor and you learn how to climb outdoors.
I agree, although I would say that the more competitions and how they've changed in the last 10 years, I think they have kind of taught movement better for outdoor as well. Like, they challenge the athletes on these boulders and routes.
Totally.
And it translates to outdoor more seamless than it ever has.
Right. Body position, balance. Totally. Cece wrestling these volumes on
She figured out that wrap there, really put her in a nice position.
Come on, girl.
That looks like it needs to be brushed.
Yeah.
Ross Fulkerson sticking the cross. He just now became our new leader for the men.
That'll put him into finals.
Unable to get that last hold. He kind of slipped as he was jumping, but once he knows the results, he'll be happy with that. I'm sure a lot of the men are coming down and thinking, oh my gosh, I did not do that well, but little do they know, people are not getting so far in this route, so.
You can almost read it on his face. He like bent over and was like, no, just so disappointed, and he's in first place.
Sticking that cross, super difficult, just not getting enough generation to get out to that next sloper. On the women's side, Ashley Fisher has stuck the dyno and is trying to figure out how to get into that crimp for women's number 2. Looks like she's in a good body position, just needs to reach a little bit more. Not going to have enough time to make it happen, but that zone is very important, especially on that boulder.
For sure.
Ross Fulkerson with a score of 20 plus for the men's route, becoming our new leader and putting him in finals, which I'm sure he'll be really excited to hear.
For the women, we have our first female qualified Olympian out on boulder number 1, Kyra Condi.
Taking a second to brush since she's coming out later. That is generally the first thing people coming out later want to do. And off camera, Kylie Cullen just smashed the dyno on women's number 2.
Big flash.
First try to the zone.
Not the top.
It actually looked so easy too. Now, this part is a little tricky. We've seen a lot of the women struggle with it. Just trying to find that right body position. Looks like she found it, just needs to rock up. Little slip there, but the way she made that first move look, I don't think she'll have any problem getting back up there.
Kyra on number 1, this is something that I know that she's been working really hard on in the training center with Josh, and let's see if it pays off here. Slab and like slowing down and and being in control and trying to find positions that suit her style of climbing.
Looks like we have Sean Bailey on the men's route, trying to get through this tricky bottom section, just figuring out where he wants to put his feet.
Really
Nicely
smooth
done.
so far with Kyra.
This is actually the slowest I've seen Kyra climb.
Yeah, really cool. So I want to bring attention to that leg thing that she did, the flag out left. I call it a dangle flag when I coach, and it's you don't always have to flag on the wall. It's sort of like the drinky bird, and what that did was tip her momentum to the right to weight more on that right foot and create more friction between the grip tape of the volume and the rubber of her shoe, and that perfectly balanced her enough to be able to really casually reach the finish. It's one of
Here's a quick look about what Alex was just mentioning.
It's one of my favorite moves.
She just drags the toe a little bit on the wall, but it's more just about that counterbalance that she's getting from bringing that leg out and not actually applying pressure.
The perfect counterweight. Oh, I love it.
I like the drinky bird
Yeah,
analogy.
totally.
Sean Bailey looking nice and smooth through this section. He's approaching that tricky section that a lot of the men have struggled with.
5'6".
He's actually 24 years old, but he is definitely 5'6".
Yeah.
And
one of the
you guys
shorter,
all recognize him.
males.
He is one of the shorter men, but he does have a good plus. He has a +3, so that puts him in a nice position.
His bio says age 24, years climbing 23.
He started climbing as an infant.
Climbing out of his crib.
Looking really smooth here today. He mentioned yesterday that he was quite pumped on both of the qualifiers, which I don't think I've ever heard him say that before.
No,
he
he
literally
said he's been,
referred to his forearms as bricks.
Yeah, he said he's been doing a lot of bouldering and not a lot of sport climbing, and so.
But he has a natural talent when it comes to sport climbing, and his technique is so good, and he's been in finals on the podium so many times and is climbing that way right now, so he just needs to get through this next section.
This just put
really
him into
nice.
finals as well. And I was going to wait to say anything, but he's one of my favorite climbers to watch. He's so fluid and smooth.
That was interesting.
Fall. Looked like he just dropped off.
So he got his left foot up nicely, as Brad was talking to us about how it was really necessary to get that foot up in order to set up to move to that yellow sloper, but he did just kind of fall backwards. You also just saw a top from Kylie Cullen on women's number 2. Just our second top on that boulder in this round.
Didn't surprise me with how quickly she stuck that dyno. That's usually what takes the time and the skin and the attempts is sticking the dyno, and she stuck it right away. So with that, she was able to sort of focus more on the sequence at the end.
And that put her into first place. Here's another look at Sean working his way through this pinch nicely and popping that foot up with ease, but he kind of just lost his balance here. It looks like his hips were too turned to the left. He kind of needed to open them in order to get to that sloper, but nonetheless, he'll be in finals, which is where I would expect to see him.
For sure. Now that he's done, we can say that without jinxing him.
New leader, Sean Bailey, with 21 plus on the men's lead route. Remember, the route is a total of 29 points, so we're creeping up. Each man that comes out gets a little closer.
And there's only one left, so we'll see how that goes.
Maya Madere on women's number 1. Also another climber that tends to like the slab climbs.
Maya's one of Megan and I's favorites for finals. Super strong, great climber, performs usually very well in qualifiers, and then is just out of finals from semis. And so we've got our fingers crossed for her this weekend to try to make the U.S. team and go to some World Cups.
And on the left, we have another one of our Olympic qualifiers, Colin Duffy, who qualified for the Olympics by winning the Pan American Championships.
The last competition that took place over a year ago.
Exactly. Which was pretty intense because both Sean Bailey and Colin Duffy topped the route, and it came down to time. So it was a really stressful situation that was going on there. Nice and controlled through the first precarious section of this route. He is also on the shorter side when it comes to the men at 5'6" as well, but given that he's grown about 2 feet. 2 feet, no, just kidding. He's really grown like a few inches in the last like couple years. 5'6" is a great place to be.
Mm-hmm. He's usually a fast climber, and so it's interesting having to see him force himself to slow down here in some of these precarious sections.
Yeah, he is very attuned though to when he needs to slow down, even though he is so young, and makes it really nicely through that section, doesn't rush it at all. And he kind of had the wrong foot orientation, especially for being smaller there. It would have been better to have it cross, but he was able to make it through to that right foot on the yellow jib nicely anyway. Cece trying to figure out how to start women's number 4. Definitely the most difficult boulder of the round so far. We haven't seen anyone really make any or score any points on this boulder, so hoping that somebody figures it out soon, and Cece could be the one to do it. Really nice start. Close.
Close, yeah.
Man, definitely an interesting orientation with their foot out right. Does seem more natural to go that way though.
That first move is just so powerful. A lot on the right hand. Tricep, lat, shoulder. And then the tension of like sticking that left hand in the underclimb is gonna be
really difficult.
Yeah.
Colin Duffy into that crimp, moving his feet up to this dish, but he's gonna clip first. Nice clipping spot. Oop, drops the rope. It's a little harder to pull rope when you can't bite it. I mean, you can with the mask, but it's still a little trickier than when you don't have a mask on. So that can happen. Really solid moving into that next hold.
Interesting sequence here. Right hand on the...
He looks comfortable, so...
I think he knows that he has to switch his hands up here. I wonder if...
a little risky.
Because he's the last climber, and 25 men have gone before him, if the holds are just starting to get
a little grimy.
Yeah. Come on, buddy.
It's a better foot position. I'm not sure you can... Oof, early fall for Colin Duffy. Definitely not what he meant to do. Looks like for that he will end up with a score of 17 plus, which puts him in that
bottleneck
tie with or tied points, not actually tied because of countbacks, but I think it'll still be enough to put him into the final,
right? Especially
because he's
with
the top
countbacks.
ranked of the 17 plus, so it should put him into 5th place just before Ben Hanna.
And that's where it helps to, even though the men had a quote easier day yesterday with everyone moving through, you heard Ben Hanna say after the round, oh, I wanted to place high. People were like, you made it, everyone made it, it didn't matter. And he was like, well, I wanted to place higher, and because of this risk of countbacks, like a bottleneck like that, all these men tying, Colin, having qualified in 1st place, puts him ahead of everyone else from that bottleneck.
Exactly. And we just saw in that replay just the little mistake he made by matching that hold, put him in a weird body position, but we'll still see him in finals. Kyra Condi easily sticking the jump on women's number 2.
Ooh, here comes that campus I wanted.
And we haven't yet seen one of the women stick it with a campus. They actually have been putting their heel up. I think she thinks she's going to match after she gets the heel, but don't think that will actually work.
It's interesting that no one has gone back down to the first paddle like the route setters did last night. I mean,
Campus. Oh, that was so close.
I really want to see
figure.
campus.
It looked like she was about to do a figure 4.
I would also love to see that. She's going to try to match for sure.
Oh, using the volume. Not a bad idea. The jump did not look difficult for her at all, so I'm sure she'll be back up there in a second. As on number 1, we have Brooke Rabatou, another one of the Olympic qualifiers.
Cruising. You
Nicely.
and I, when we sequenced this, so the screw holes on the volume are some of Brooke's specialties. She likes to stick her toes in the screw holes. And so Megan and I were sequencing that, and we were like, Brooke is going to
put her foot
She's
here.
going to stick her toe in that, and she's going to stick her toe in that. And they're like tiny little foot chips, and she uses them all the time.
And that was a nice top from Brooke Rabatou. And a flash as well. So puts her in a great position, not tired, has another 2 minutes and 45 seconds plus 5 minutes to recover before that second boulder, which is very powerful. Emma Hunt trying to figure out the start here on women's number 4. Going with that right heel hook like we saw Cece do.
That was close.
I do feel like that right heel hook puts you in an off-balance position, kind of makes you barn door a little bit right off of it. And it's funny that they're not trying to get out to that stalactite volume.
And then it makes the left hand, like if you bicycle the start hold, the left start hold, it makes the left hand easier to oppose. And with the right heel hook, it makes it harder to oppose it.
Kyra Condi figuring out what to do. She went back down to that lower hold like we were talking about earlier in order to get into the crimp. Now she just needs to get over her hips a little more to get to the top and isn't able to make it happen. She still has a minute 45 though. I think she has enough time to put it together. If I was her, I would rest for about 20 to 30 seconds before getting back on now that she knows what to do. The boulder itself is only a couple moves, so there's no point in rushing her recovery.
No, and especially that much of a powerful boulder. And a lot of these seasoned competitors know how much time it takes to send a boulder like that. It's not slow, it's not a slab. You don't have to like, really balance your way through. It's power and it's fast, and a lot of them have timed out almost exactly how long it takes to send a boulder like that, and then you can time your rest. Like they're gonna watch the clock, count the clock down, and then know exactly, like maybe I'll give myself extra 8 seconds in case I blow the dyno, but you know how long it takes, and so you watch the clock and wind it down and give yourself ample rest. Sometimes I do that a little too much.
Emma Hunt on her previous attempt just tried some foot first beta, which I'm not sure she will try again because it didn't look like it worked that well, but it's nice to see some more creativity there since we haven't seen anybody figure out what to do there.
Right.
And we actually didn't get to watch the route setters on that climb.
No.
Here's our men's leaderboard with Sean Bailey in first, and rounding out this list that you can see right now is Cody Stevenson. Looks like we won't be seeing a top since the men are done, but I wonder if the route setters are gonna possibly tweak the final a little bit more, given that the men didn't really get close to the top here. We're taking 8 to finals, so the ones that you would expect to be in there are
We have Megan Lynch out for boulder number 1 for the women. Ashima sussing out boulder number 3, and Maya getting going on
boulder number 2. Shima easily into this bicep section on women's number 3, getting that knee bar.
Ooh, and
Maya's sticking the zone on number 2 quickly.
Clutch.
Shima looks really comfortable moving through these volumes. She's got really good body awareness, and her body positioning comes so naturally to her.
Really good with her heels and her toes too, being able to squeeze with like talon toes and really flexible open hips. Maya,
real quick send there.
Second go, I think.
She's going to be really happy with
yes.
that, and it will be huge. And like we were saying earlier, she hasn't made a final in an adult national competition for bouldering, so this would be really big for her.
I think with 2 tops, that will put her into finals. Unconfirmed.
It's definitely putting her in a good position. Megan Lynch looking really smooth here. It is something I noticed about her climbing yesterday, actually. I've never seen her look this confident. She looks so in control, so confident. She's done very well in the past. She made finals 2020, Bouldering Nationals, but she's
crushing.
Yeah, her demeanor on the wall, I've never seen it look this confident, and it's really exciting to watch.
It's like she's coming out and she knows what kind of shape she's in and how good she feels, and so it's really cool to see her like climb with that confidence.
Ashley Fisher taking a second to figure out how she wants to approach women's number 4. As Ashima takes another look at the volume. And another thing we were talking about for this climb specifically is the fact that it's hard to remember exactly what you did because you're moving your body position so often and flipping your hands and switching your feet, heel hook, toe hook. There's so much happening that you really want to make sure you know what you're going to do before you get off the ground, and that's what she's doing right now as she rests a little bit before taking another attempt. And she's currently in 13th place, so she does need to get another top in there to keep moving her up. Though I do think she's going to like number 4.
Yes. This is, like Megan and I have said before, the team trials event. This is not nationals. This is only to select the U.S. team, and the way that that is being done is excluding the Olympians who already have a bye. It's the top 3 ranked athletes in each discipline here, and again, not including the Olympians. So if the Olympians go 1-2, the U.S. team will be 3-4-5.
Exactly.
And so eligibility for World Cups will go down to the top 16 nationally ranked, and that is including the Olympians. And so from this event, it will theoretically be the top 14. And so that's our World Cup eligibility, and the U.S. team will be top 3, not including the Olympians.
That was great.
Thanks.
I think that made perfect sense. I hope everybody understood that. It is a little confusing, but I think you did a great job explaining it.
Cool. That's Megan.
Ashima finding some momentum here, hoping to get back up and get a top. She has 25 seconds, easily to the zone though. She needs to make sure she figures out how.
Really fancy looking heel hooks. And
very
what's
nice.
Cool is Ashima designed the shoes that she's wearing. Those were her design collaboration, and proceeds were donated to organizations that represent marginalized communities. So that was really cool of her.
So there was a little confusion earlier with the men's leaderboard, but this is who will be going to finals, and we're taking 9 men because of the tie. So you'll see Sean Bailey, Ross Fulkerson, Nathaniel Coleman, Ellis Ernsberger, Colin Duffy, Ben Hanna, Quinn O'Francia, Timothy Kang, and Stefan Fellner tonight in the final for men's lead. Another new face on the wall, Chloe Koskoy, who placed 2nd at Bouldering Nationals in 2020.
Beat me by 1 hold.
You're not still holding on to it at all.
No, not at all. Nope, not better. No, just kidding.
A little bit rushed there coming into those crimps, but plenty of time as the clock has just started. Kyra Kandi on women's number 3, these volumes.
Wrestling.
Yeah, right off the bat. Has good momentum though. just needs to confidently stand on that foot. Looks like she didn't feel too confident there on that foot. We have our 2 qualified Olympic athletes side by side on women's number 2 and 3, with Brooke Rabatou on 2 and Kyra Connie on 3. And like you said earlier, Alex, Kyra's been training at the training center, and Brooke's kind of been going back and forth from Colorado, where she lives, and then to the training center to train with the Olympic team, which I think has been so great. I mean, can you believe that there is a training center these
No.
days? Like, just coming from where we came from, where
We didn't even have
that
a team
kind of stuff didn't exist.
or a coach, let alone a training center.
Exactly. When I walked into the training center, I was like, oh my gosh,
What
this
a dream.
is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
We were born 10 years too early.
But it's been really great for the athletes to be able to train there together with Josh Larson as their coach, and that spray wall and all the comp walls, and
World
getting
Cup
them
setting.
prepped for this World Cup setting, exactly, and giving them the best chance to perform. Kyra was able to figure out how to get up there that time a little bit further, and she kind of keeps looking at her hands. It's like she keeps slipping off, greasing up too much. Almost sticking the zone for Brooke. Looks like she just needs a little more momentum.
One more snap. I think she's warming up to it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Chloe moving her feet slowly. I think as long as she can get out to that stem, she should be able to get the zone. But I do feel like for some of the taller athletes, that transition outright is kind of tricky because your legs are so up into your chest. Nice move. Problem 4 is still proving to be the most difficult problem in the round, as the women are struggling and Kylie Colin's taking a step back to see if she can figure out something different to do, and she is currently in the lead for women. Not as high of a jump that time for Brooke.
Yet to see a zone on women's number 4.
No, not at all. Let's see if she can figure something out here. Going with that right heel hook like we've seen a lot of the women do. Almost holds the swing, but again, I think it's a little too aggressive to be going left hand with not a good heel hook. It's basically a flat hold with dual texture actually, so it's not going to hold the swing there that well.
I think with the right heel, it forces you to have to pull down on that hold instead of being able to pull in and compress it.
Nice stick for Brooke on the zone hold. And I actually figured this section would not be so bad for her because that kind of high heel, big hip flexibility is really within her wheelhouse. So a top there for Brooke Rabatou.
Awesome.
With a minute to spare. Kyra taking another look at women's number 3. I think it's a good idea to rest a little bit because it is so powerful and wrestly.
A lot of
Kylie
brushing.
Cullen sticking that left hand. Now that's the best method.
High point.
High point with no point, unfortunately.
Right.
Kyra's choosing to take a seat down. A seat down? Wow.
Take
Take a
that
seat after women's number 3 and try to save her energy for women's number 4. Hopefully she can figure something out.
I have high expectations.
I do. I think a lot of the women coming up to 4 right now are going to like it. A look at Natalia Grossman on women's number 1, her first boulder of the round, also the 2020 bouldering national champion.
Top-ranked qualifier. Natalia's kind of been unstoppable lately. Yeah, we had a mock comp. I say we like I've been going.
You weren't even competing.
They had a mock comp in Salt Lake at the training center, and Natalia did the men's finals boulders.
So we're expecting her to
No pressure.
do really well in this round, but we're also not going to say things like that anymore as to not jinx people.
Right.
So not
Yeah.
that we're superstitious or anything.
No, not at all. It just has definitely been happening.
Nice and smooth. Oh, I thought she was going to use a knee for a second. I was
too.
going to get really excited. She has great
I was going to call
flexibility.
dab. You can't put your knee on.
What?
Unethical.
That is not true. You can use a knee.
Zach Gallo would disagree.
Yeah, but this is a competition. It's
Anything
in the rules.
goes.
You can use a knee.
Whatever it
so
takes.
if you have to, you have to. Natalia working those feet over, needs to get into that stem position to make it a little more comfortable to get to the zone.
Grizzly looking finger position on the cluster. We've seen a lot of 2 fingers monos. I think she's like double monoing with a mono pinky right now.
And also you can't even get your fingers that far back in there, so it's basically just like pinching your skin.
Yeah. A lot of like awkward, uncomfortable, like Spock-like grips.
Nice save there. Every attempt does count, as she knows it. Fighting for that. Just needs to find the right body position to get to the top.
Yep.
One hand just needs the 2. And a top for Natalia Grossman.
Oh,
and Megan Lynch. Megan Lynch just falling off the top of women's number 2. Still has time to get back up there. As Maya Madeir is working her way through the boulders, wrestling on these volumes, wrestling the volumes. Looks really comfortable, actually. Nice tension there, moving into that wrap on the zone hold with her left hand.
Releasing this heel is going to be
a little
clutch if she can hold the momentum.
Very nice and controlled.
No, come on, girl.
Nice recovery. Just needs to figure out how to get enough momentum into that top hold.
Little snap. The top hold is good enough. If she hits it, she should be able to
stick it. Nice little press with her left hand. Oh, doesn't get high enough though, just a little too shallow.
Left, yeah.
Got Ashima Shiraishi over here on
Nailing
women's
the sequence.
number 4. Yeah, she just needed to hold the tension a little bit more. She still has time. Honestly, if she can get the zone on that, that would be amazing. And I think it's actually not as bad at the top of the boulder. I think this beginning section is the harder part. So if she can get the zone, there's a good chance she could go to the top.
And that was the intended beta of the root setters, was either a heel or a toe hook on that bottom spike to get you up to that undercling crimp that's on that black volume.
Here's a quick replay of Maya Madeir almost getting one hand on the top. She just hits a little shallow here and isn't able to get to the good part, but she still has plenty of time to get back up there. On women's number 4, we're actually seeing some progress here. Ashima is on the zone hold for women's number 4, which is new territory. And she really needs a top here. I'm not even sure if that would get her into the final, but it actually, there's a good chance that it could. So if she can keep her composure as the seasoned competitor that she is, she could put herself in a really good position.
She got the zone, and now she's moving into the head wall section. This is the exact sequence the root setters intended, so this is cool to see.
Really nice control of the swing there. Now she's just going to need to press up into this
corner
top hold, and she only has 5 seconds left. Can she do it? Oh, unfortunately, it's not going to happen there for Ashima. Not her best round, but really great to see her figure out that boulder number 4, since we hadn't seen anything happen there. So unfortunate that we won't see her in the final tonight, but
and great to see her here.
It's so great to see her here, and that was some amazing climbing. Oh yeah, she's definitely doing lead. So we'll see her later in a couple of days. But
ooh, Chloe.
Nice catch right off the bat. 30 seconds in. she's going for some rest time.
And some flair, one hand stick.
Just needs to find that right hip position to get into the crimp. A lot of the women are struggling. Another look at her stick on this dyno. Gets it with one hand on the right, and then the left hand comes off and she holds it. That took so much lat power.
That's gotta be one of the YETI moves of the day.
Yeah, I'm putting that in as my suggestion.
Totally.
Kyra Condi on number 4, moving through the section pretty quickly. Looks like she has a chance to get a top because she has a lot of time left, so even if she isn't able to get through this next section, she'll have plenty of time. Just needs to get into a press. I think stem out left.
Yeah, so that was what I thought the sequence was last night when we were watching the root setters as well, and this could be one of those moves that is hard with Kyra's back. She's not a big fan usually of like pressing and mantles and getting into a corner because of her back surgery. Her spine is fused. Yeah. So
really good press though. She's got one hand. She just needs to get the other one up there.
This is where I would throw a knee.
Oh, did you see I think there's a jib on the left side of that top hold too. So she should honestly wait until like 2 minutes or 1:30 to then get back up there because she can definitely do it. And currently she's in 4th, so she doesn't know that, but it's good to know.
I'll go tell her.
Just really quick. Just kidding. Chloe back up in this top section of women's number 2. Hasn't had any issues with the dyno, but this top section is giving her a little bit of a problem. But I think she really should just do that. Just one motion to the crimp.
I think she should just do it too.
A little look at Kyra up at the top of women's number 4. Really made it smoothly to that point and then just wasn't able to get all the way to the other side on this top hold where that little jib is to then put her in a better position to match the finish.
Hey, it's right in the top left corner. She was just shy of it.
And I hope she saw it from the ground because it is pretty hidden.
I think she looked like she was reaching for it. And that wasn't there last night, but I
was
noticed
gonna
it this morning. Yeah.
Brooke Rabatou into the zone on women's number 3. Having trouble finding that right body position.
Those holds coming out as the final few competitors with all the buildup of chalk have to be slippery at this point.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard too with those upper holds. It's like you're brushing them, but the chalk kind of just stays there anyway. You can't blow it off, so it gets pretty caked on there.
I have been going to the gym, brushing holds, and then trying to blow the chalk off in a mask, and I'm like, oh, that was pointless.
You're like, I just blew into
You start fanning it with your hands to try to get the chalk off.
Kyra being smart and taking a bit of a longer rest because she did move through that bottom section really quickly, so she shouldn't have an issue getting back up there with enough time to finish. Just needs to be very efficient. Off camera, Brooke Rabatou on women's number 3 just fell, but she was looking really good into that zone section again. Let's see if, little bobble there from Kyra. Has enough time to start it again. Such an aggressive start. Really heavy on that toe hook, which a lot of the women were just trying to do a right heel instead. Brooke is back up on.
Kyra's moving quickly here through the middle section.
Good thing she knows how to do that.
Totally. 15 seconds to try to press into the finish here.
Brooke is also fighting for time over here with 10 seconds left.
Extend the right arm. Looks like she's sliding. She's really got to push.
Press, 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 press.
The knee.
Not gonna happen. But she is currently in 4th, so we'll have to see if she's able to hold that position. But there are some women behind her, so gonna have to wait and see what happens. 1 top, 4 zones. Natalia deciding to take off her chalk bag because that jump is pretty aggressive. Your chalk kind of flies up behind you.
Yeah,
and it's a shorter boulder.
When you jump and it swings around and like hits you in the back and stuff.
Kind of throws you off balance.
Yeah.
Oh, almost held it.
Megan Lynch going for the zone here on women's number 3.
Moving through this section really
I really
quickly.
like those heel hooks.
I
Those,
know,
like,
right?
Under the volume heel hooks.
All about trusting the heels and toes.
And ankle flexibility. I've seen them like a lot of times when they climb on the slab, their heels drop down so much. A lot of calf and ankle flexibility to be able to do like drop down heels on slab and those really extreme heel hooks.
Maya looking really good in the roof here, getting to the zone. I think this could possibly be her first try. Just trying to wrestle through those volumes.
Press into the undercline here, and then it's a high left foot on that jib that you can see just in the center of the screen. Cross to that dual tech slopey crimp.
And then
perfect.
Have to release slowly on that volume. Another top for Natalia Grossman on number 2. Lots of time to recover here. Maya taking a second to recover as well, as she has just under 3 minutes left. Megan smoothly moving through number 3 again. Just needs to figure out how to get into this slopey crimp on that volume right before the top. All about the body position and foot position here. Very nice. Looks like she was trying to do a knee scum, but I don't think she needs to.
Good stick.
Should set her up nicely to get pressed up into that top hold. Went with the right hand, holds it, just has to get that left hand on.
You could see how hard she was fighting to hold that move. Her eyes were closed, her teeth were, I mean, I think her teeth were clenched. I don't know, I couldn't see. I feel like her teeth were clenched.
Mine were.
Yeah, totally. You could see the grit and the fight, and that's like what it takes to get into finals here, is like that sort of blackout focus.
So Maya Madera, the only woman on the floor right now, taking another look at number 4. Made quite a lot of progress, but would really do well with the top here because she's currently in 7th, so 1 spot out. But if she does get the top, it would knock Kyra down out of 6th place, where she currently is. If you are new to climbing shoes are very small, so oftentimes everybody sizes down quite a bit. So oftentimes you have to take your shoes off between boulders, and sometimes it's good to take it off while you're resting as well.
They're tight for that like really specific precision. You know, you're standing on like tiny, tiny little edges and holds like the size of a quarter, you know, and you really want to have like tight, precise shoes. Come on, girl.
Moving nicely.
A minute is plenty of time.
Definitely.
Get a lot done.
And she's good at pressing, so this top section, she should, if she can be patient, she should be able to get through it. Perfectly on that jib.
Yep. So Kyra did this move dynamically. She kind of jumped out and held the volume in the swing, and Maya's releasing her hand early. Awesome stick.
Nice control of that swing.
So then we got to kick the left foot back out to the jib that she just released from, and then mantle into the corner.
She has 23 seconds left. She's got to get that foot out there. Oh, too much swing.
Helicopter.
Unfortunately, that is not going to get her into finals. It looks like she's going to end up being a spot or 2 out, which is pretty devastating, but still a good round for her. Bouldering Nationals, she qualified very high into semis and then did not have a good round at all. So at least she kept the momentum. This was just like minor mistakes, but would have been great to see her finally make a final. Brooke Rabbitoux stepping up to number 4, giving it a good brush since there's so many volumes.
The top hold should be relatively clean.
Yeah, but these
really
lower,
brush the start holds.
lower ones have to be grimy.
A lot of chalky paws on the start.
Chalky paws. Right now, Brooke has 2 tops and 3 zones, and she's currently in 2nd place. So she's in a really good position. If she tops here, it would move her into 1st easily. In fact, she could just, I think even with just getting the zone, that'll move her into 1st for now, but there are still competitors behind her, so a top is what she wants.
One of the shorter athletes, like we were talking about earlier, had to dynamically start the start.
And Brooke kind of did too. She did a little swing to a heel, which that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised she just heeled. She loves toe hooking.
Yeah.
And she chose to heel. Already has that zone.
She's got like amazing footwork. She's a wizard with her feet, the heels and the toes, and how precise her footwork is, and a lot of flexibility, and so that allows her to be really creative with her sequences too.
Just
There's a little toe
effortlessly
hook.
moving through this boulder onto that volume. Nicely controlling the swing. Just has to kick that left foot out.
You can see how bad that left hand is from this angle. That's cool. Yeah, swing the left toe back to the.
A lot of precision here, having to kind of dead point with the foot to a little jib after all that climbing, and this being your fourth boulder. Nice little toe scum on the zone hold to get into that press a little bit better. She also does love mantling, so this is a place where she's pretty comfortable.
And what you'll notice here is that Brooke took her hand from the top of the triangle and brought, well, she just put it back. But in order to get up in that press, what Kyra did was she stayed on the top, and that press, I think, maybe held her back to the right. And Brooke, it looked like her position was better when she brought her hand down to the bottom of the volume and flipped her palm up and fingers down, but just not enough reach to get up to that. Ooh, this will be interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Board.
Chloe Koskoy on women's number 3 trying to figure out how to get past this section. Looks like that was a really good decision to get her body in the right position to now get up smoothly into that crimp. Oh, kind of just slipped off there. We've seen that happen a lot with the women today, just kind of sliding off the volumes. Brooke in that press looks a little bit better now.
Ooh. Speaking of sliding off volumes.
It's a little interesting because it looks like she wants to bring her right foot up where her hand is, but she kind of doesn't have enough room to. See if she can figure out how to make that happen. Another replay of Brooke getting her foot out onto that jib really efficiently that time, and that toe scum to keep her counterbalanced and pressing up into the volume, but just slips off that right hand, loses her body position, and has enough time to try it again. But it is the fourth boulder, so she can kind of do whatever she wants.
She doesn't yet know that she's in finals, and so if she knew that,
she'd probably stop.
Yeah, right. She's in first place or something. She could,
yeah, she's in first right now.
Pull the plug and then save it for tonight and tomorrow and the next day and the next day
and the next day.
She's doing all the disciplines, but she doesn't know.
It'll only make her stronger anyway.
And
keep trying.
This is a practice. This is practice and training for our Olympians. You know, they don't need to qualify here. They already have a bye, and this is the only time that they're going to be able to do this style of competing before the Olympics in August.
She's looking like she's a little tired now, and she's definitely going to try again. That last one kind of zapped her. She had to fight really hard, and that slip too must have been pretty uncomfortable.
She was up there for like 3 minutes. That was still her first go.
Both Chloe and Brooke back on the wall. She pointed to her finger. I don't know exactly what that was, but it looks like she looks like she's stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna be done.
You just
Chloe, so close. Just another slip. So we had a little bit of misinformation for the men's lead round. So they actually are only taking the 8 like originally planned. There is a tie for that last spot, but we are not taking 9. We're just going to take the 8 to final. So there is your men's final that you will see later today, and I hope you join us for that.
Really tight scores from 8th to 1st, you know, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 4 moves separate the men from 1st to 8th. I had to count on my fingers. I swear I'm good at math.
It was a very close round for sure.
Yeah,
and a lower scoring round.
Yeah, not like a true show of domination on that route.
Natalia getting ready to approach that zone hold. No problem getting into it. Pretty much walking this boulder currently. really important to get that right foot up in order to get into that crimp. We've seen a lot of the women struggle there, but one hand on the top, another one, and piece of cake there.
It's so easy. It was almost anticlimactic.
So far, she has done every boulder in the round and very quickly. So we will definitely be seeing her in finals tonight. Megan Lynch trying to figure out exactly what to do here to start. It's been pretty exciting to see a few of the athletes figure number 4 out, but it still is very tricky, so hopefully she figures it out. Natalia's score is 3 tops in 3 zones with 6 attempts. It's a really nice score. It's actually putting her in first place before even doing the 4th boulder, so she could actually not do anything, except she doesn't know that. So I'm sure we'll see her get on the 4th boulder.
But to be in the know.
To be in the know, what it would do.
Interesting, too, in climbing, unlike, I guess, every other sport, there's no active coaching. So basketball, football, whatever, your coach is yelling out plays, yelling time, yelling shoot, pass, dribble, kick, whatever, and the players always know exactly what's going on because your coach is able to tell you. And out here, it's you don't know the sequence, you don't know the moves, you know how much time is left, and that's basically literally it. You can guess how your competitors have done by, well, not here because there's no crowd, usually by the sound of the crowd.
Usually the crowd gives you some inclination of what's going on, but it's completely silent, so no one really knows.
Yeah, and you're totally in the dark as an athlete. Like, you don't know what place you're in, you don't know what you have to do to send, you don't know what you have to do as moves on the boulder. And in so many other sports, like, imagine if in climbing your coach could be like, heel hook and then throw the left, and it would be such a different game, you know? Like,
it
we
would not be as
totally
cerebral.
Right, right, yeah.
It would take a lot of the fun out of it. It's interesting.
Robotic.
Megan is able to get into that left hand pretty easily, but she's struggling trying to figure out what to do to get her left foot over to that stalactite volume. We've seen most of the women just kind of kick it out, and she keeps trying to do like a backwards heel hook on that left hand start hold, and it's not letting her get all the way over. So hopefully she figures out how to get past that. Back up on women's number 4. Just needs to throw that foot over a little bit better, getting closer. One minute left for Megan Lynch on women's number 4. She is already in the final, so she doesn't need to get the zone here, but she doesn't know that, so she's gonna definitely try to figure out how to get up there, but it looks like she's gonna keep going. It's hard to tell. Sometimes they look like they're gonna walk off the mat, and then the next thing you know, they're in their chalk pot again.
Right. And in her mind, she doesn't know she's in finals, and so this could be her literal last go effort of the entire event. And so it's, you want to really leave it all out there.
Yeah, exactly. About 15 seconds left on the clock. See if she can get those feet over and start moving towards the zone. Not going to be able to make it happen, but it's still a stellar round for Megan Lynch. She's currently in 3rd.
I think that would mean the worst that she could do is 5th?
I think that's right, yeah.
The 2 women that we have
Oh,
left.
actually, they don't have Chloe's score currently up there, so she, yeah. Chloe Koskoy on women's number 4, taking a second to figure out what she needs to do here and brush some of those holds. Unlike the men, the women haven't seen these boulders until they turn around when their 5 minutes begin.
One of Chloe's fun facts that she wrote on her bio was, I like doing other sports. And I often see Instagram videos of her skateboarding around the park in Salt Lake with her dog. Her dog pulls her on her skateboard, which is pretty cool. Mine
It's
also.
a workout for both people, or both
Right.
the dog and her.
Interesting correlation between skateboarding and climbing. A lot of our best male climbers are really good at skateboarding, and there's the balance and coordination and leg strength and stuff. And I don't know if that's been scientifically proven, but there's
It does
definitely
go hand
something
in hand.
interesting to say about that. So Chloe, skateboarding can't hurt.
Yeah, it's good cross training.
My dogs pull me on the skateboard too, for sure.
Really? They're so small.
I need all of them together.
You have a little herd of chihuahuas to pull you. Chloe trying to figure out how exactly she wants to start this boulder. We've seen most of the women be successful by putting their left foot out. We've seen a lot of women try that and not be successful, but
That
she
left
actually
hand.
did look kind of controlled there.
Yeah, I just don't think it's good enough to be able to pull down only on. I think you
I agree.
have to oppose it and pull in.
She's currently in 15th place, so I think she definitely needs to top.
That would be kind of a crazy upset.
It would be
to
a
go
crazy
from
upset. From
podi-
second.
Right, podium last year, U.S.
Yep.
team last year, second yesterday. One of the favorites for the U.S. team.
Exactly. But that's what's so interesting about bouldering specifically is there's so many variables. You just never know if something's going to suit you, if you're going to figure it out quick enough.
Right.
So anything can happen, and everyone's always just training for possibilities.
Right. And trying to broaden their quiver of movement, be able to pull from several different areas of what you've learned. Not just get stronger, but get smarter, get more
Exactly.
technical.
Make yourself more well-rounded in order to be ready for anything they throw at you.
Working on your weaknesses is the least fun thing to do, but the most
Best
important
thing.
Yeah. Campus. Oh.
Wouldn't
Never mind.
that have been impressive?
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. Minute 35 left for Chloe. I do think if she can figure out how to get on this start, she could be really successful with the rest of the boulder. But she is struggling a bit here. And Chloe is another one of the athletes that has moved to Salt Lake in order to train at the training center. She's originally from El Cerrito, California, but TC is just so awesome. Everyone's flocking to it.
It's kind of a hen house most days, too. Speaking of flocking, a lot of women training at the training center in Salt Lake. It's really cool to see them training together. A lot of them live together, eating together. Super,
Lots
super
of
cool.
togetherness,
Yeah.
team bonding.
They've been working hard all year, and it's been really cool to see.
30 seconds left for Chloe Koskoy to hopefully figure out a way to get to that zone. Ooh, that actually looks like it could work.
Totally.
Oh, couldn't generate though.
Maybe a little bit of an anchor, like a ball and chain, kind of holding her momentum back a
It
little
pulled
bit.
her hips down. Looks like that is not gonna happen for Chloe Koskoy on women's number 4. She looked great at the start of the round, just wasn't able to put a few things together, getting far on boulders, but just not able to top.
And that's what's so important in this round with the different scoring format aligning with IFSC is tops. The most important thing is tops. And in the past with our scoring format with 3 zones being 5, 10, 15, it was important to get to 15 across the board, but the top wasn't always necessary if you could do 4 15s. Some people would do like some 5s and a 25, and here it's tops are the most important. Tops are key. Zones matter, but it's tops. That's what gets you to finals.
Natalia Grossman looking at her last boulder of the round. Can she make it 4 for 4? I think so.
Are we betting? I don't want to bet against
We're not
that.
betting. I'm just saying I think she could have I think she can do all 4 boulders in the round. I think she's going to make it happen.
I'm not taking that bet. I agree.
Interesting, though. She's doing it differently. Oh, sticks the move the way no one else was able to.
Impressive. Cool split section there.
Nicely into the zone.
Might make
securing her first place going into the final. Well, it was already secured, but it's just like adding more points to it.
Secured. Ooh, inside
Ooh, I love
flag.
an inside
Fancy.
flag. Don't see that as much in bouldering. More of a lead thing.
Yeah.
That's what we should be doing, marking every inside flag we see in the boulders.
1.
She has one hand on the finish. Has to figure out how to get into a press, though. Yeah, this is definitely a different method, but
we saw Brookie
work.
try this, and her heel popped, and the press, I think, is the way. I'm sure she could get it done with the heel, but
I think it seems more awkward, and also
swinging that foot
seems
over.
like a scary position to slip out of as well, like in terms of your body being in an awkward spot and to jerk it that way.
Right.
I mean, I'm old, so that would scare me.
I think I'm older than you.
Yeah, just by like 5 months.
That right hand slip that we saw happen to Brooke too would be a really, it is a precarious, like scary position.
Natalia's current score with 3 tops, 4 zones. And that's why she's in first place currently, because that is the highest score that we've seen in the round. And she's looking for that final top. I mean, I don't think I've ever topped 4 boulders to going into a final. That would be amazing.
I know, I'm trying to think.
I mean, not in like a national or a World Cup.
I don't know that it's super common. Usually it's 3 and there's like 1 boulder that never gets done. Or
yeah. Also, to have all the boulders done in a round is always what the setters want. Each boulder at least topped once.
By someone, not necessarily the same person.
Yeah. But we could see it done by the same person here. Natalia taking her time to recover before her final attempt on women's number 4. Doesn't have to be, but it will likely be just with a minute
strategically
left. Yeah, she's definitely being strategic here. Looks like she's going to get on in about 30 seconds. Or 40.
Off by 10. It's the perfect amount of time in case you do end up like slipping off the starter.
And the finish is kind of tricky, so you kind of want to have enough time to not rush that section.
The split looks like it makes the transition into the zone
really
a little
chill.
trickier. You can't really.
I thought it was just easier, but okay, never mind.
I think initially more chill and then
a little awkward.
Yeah.
Kind of puts you in a bad position. So she actually only has 5 seconds left, so maybe she should have gotten on a little earlier.
Huh.
She's surprised.
Wait, what? Took me 40 seconds to do that?
Unfortunately, not 4 tops for Natalia, but no need to worry. We'll see her in the final later, as she is the leader going into finals with 3 tops and 4 zones.
1 and 2, Natalia and Brookie.
Friends for life. So here are our final standings for women's bouldering, with Natalia Grossman leading the pack, Brooke Rabatou, Megan Lynch, Kylie Cullen, Campbell Saranopoulos, and Kyra Connie rounding out that top 6. 2 Olympic qualified athletes in the final, which will be here later tonight. Hope you all join us for that. And now we are going to show you the YETI move of the day. Chloe Koskoy sticking this zone and her left hand coming off and holding that swing is one of the YETI moves of the day. Here's another slow-mo of it. So impressive, lots of lat strength there. And our next YETI move of the day will be Sean Bailey on the men's lead route. Really looking smooth throughout the route and sticking this next cross move that's coming up right now. The first person to stick this cross move that was really difficult, and he does it with ease. Oh, he's actually gonna clip first, but into that cross, making it the YETI move of the day. And Natalia Grossman with a stellar round, coming into the final in first place, almost doing every boulder in the round and celebrating with her teammate Brooke Rabatou. And we will see them both in the final later on tonight. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you join us later tonight. We're so excited to be back and on YouTube so that everyone can watch.
Finals will be tonight for the men, 3:30 Central, with 6 for the women.
Join us then.
I think winter has become my favorite season here. That's when you get those dramatic views, brings out all the colors and the gray pops, and I feel like it's kind of like Mecca or the center of the universe. It's not a fluffy place to come. It's not a feel good, boost your ego. It's just like you get a beating. Yeah, if I could only climb one place for the rest of my life, it would be Yosemite.
Since 1966, we have viewed walls not as obstacles, but as opportunities. From the big walls of Yosemite to the high peaks of the Himalaya, we were searching for a personal kind of freedom. In this pursuit, we found a community, strengthened by different stories, experiences, and perspectives. This community has shown us that the only way forward is together.
Here we
Battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers. We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.